Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Tommy Moffitt, new strength and conditioning coach. I, for one, super pumped about it. I got to give Big Low on the YouTube page some props on this one. For weeks, actually, dating back to last year, he's like, we got to hire Tommy Moffitt. Big Low's a high school coach in the area. Strength and conditioning is his forte, and he's been asking for it, and we got him. And I find it very interesting how some people were not excited about it for different reasons. We'll get into that here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. He is Olin Buchanan. He's our Heisman Trophy voter, and I am David Nuño. What's up, buddy?
I have to admit, my knowledge of Tommy Moffitt is limited.
Yep.
Because, quite frankly, I don't know a lot about the different strength and conditioning coaches out there.
Yep.
You know, could you tell me the strength and conditioning coach at Ole Miss?
No.
Right.
Can't tell you anybody.
But I do know that he was at LSU, and they had a lot of success.
And he was at Miami, and he helped build Miami under the Butch Davis regime, if I remember correctly. Here's my point.
I think they've upgraded.
They 100 from a resume standpoint, they have 100% have upgraded. Here's what I find interesting. Some people are like, well, I think he won like strength and conditioning coach back in 2003 or something, okay? 20 years ago.
Okay.
And people are like, he's old school. He's back then. How many people know, honestly, that are complaining about the strength and conditioning world?
Probably.
Zero. I'm just telling you, they
zero.
don't know. They don't. But, OB, I'm telling you, they don't know.
Well, you don't know who all.
But I know that they don't know.
I would say it's probably less than 1%.
They don't know, OB. They don't.
Okay.
All right? Because there's a small percentage of people that actually
actually work out?
No. Like actually care about the science. And so instead of just complaining because I saw a resume on Wikipedia and said, oh, the last time he won coach strength and conditioning was in 2003. He's an old school. I actually go read. I actually go find information. Tommy Moffitt's got a website, the Moffitt Method. He's got a methodology behind his training. Tell me if this sounds 1980 or does this sound 2023? The Moffitt, it's a scientific approach to it. 10 bachelor's degrees, 5 master's degrees, 2 PhDs all on his staff. The Strength Redefined, elite level strength training and conditioning, expert training remotely, focusing on customized workout plans, championship winning mentality by pushing a button, scientific methodology. Does that sound like Gym Bros from 1980, or does that sound a little bit more evolved?
Well, it sounds evolved. I'm sure they had science in 1980 as well. But
sure, but science has evolved.
but the resume sounds great. I just look at a track record of the success of the teams where he's been.
Well, Matt Tackle on the YouTube page says, arguably the greatest college team of all time was 2019, which was led by, or strength and conditioning by?
Well, I guess Tommy Moffitt.
Tommy Moffitt.
I thought I was about to say Joe Burrow, but
well, yeah. Well, was Joe Burrow not a different quarterback from Ohio State to the first year at LSU to A&M? Oh,
yes.
Excuse me, to LSU.
Yes.
I wish A&M.
I think I'm probably giving Joe Brady more credit than that, but
sure.
But a strength and conditioning coach, everybody talks about it. In some aspects, maybe the most important coach that you have, because he spends more time with the players than anybody else and helps set the, I guess the culture I think it's something to celebrate. Absolutely.
My thing is, if there was, just do some research, and then if you instead of just saying something just let's let it play out. Elko has.
You forget the iconic quote from Shelby Metcalf.
Tell me more.
The only happy Aggie is an unhappy Aggie.
Well,
so some people are going to complain no matter what the situation.
Sure,
is.
but I think that's all fan bases. I do.
Some would get a guy like that. Well, look, we celebrated when Jerry Schmidt was named.
Yeah.
They should have the same reaction, especially when you consider what's been going on since Jerry Schmidt left. I think you should have the same reaction.
Most of the reactions have been very
Moffitt.
positive.
Yeah, it should
most
be.
of it. Yeah. I just sometimes I think we're quick to push the trigger, if you will, without kind of really absorbing the information. By the way, this may not work. We don't know anything about anything. Certain coaches you hire, you think it's going to be a no-brainer with Jimbo, and at the end of the day, it didn't work. It worked for a moment, but we're talking about the body of work. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know anything. I think this is the right hire at the right time. Of all the candidates out there, I think this guy, the national reaction, A&M got Tommy Moffitt.
Well, again, I'm just going to say this, that the guys, where he's been, they've had a history of success. And it appeared to me that A&M, if you can, from a press box, make this this statement, and it's probably shrouded in ignorance, but it just appeared to me that A&M wasn't the same in a lot of areas after Jerry Schmidt left.
Yep.
So we're talking about a guy is at least Jerry Schmidt's equal. And I'm saying at least.
The Sandman on the YouTube page. I don't know if Schmitty leaving was a pivotal reason for y'all's poor season. No, everything's a trickle-down effect, right? It starts at the top, the leadership up top, right? But every former player, not every, but the majority of the former players we've had on this show have all said it starts with the strength and conditioning coach. And if that guy's not on point, if you don't got some warriors on your team, it's because that is that position there kind of forces you to be a certain way at all times.
Well, to be clear, I'm not saying that that's why A&M struggled. I'm saying that there are contributing factors, and you address each contributing factor and try to be better in every aspect. You want to be the best you absolutely can be in every aspect of your program, and I think this is a move that makes you much better, or potentially makes you much better, in a significant area of your program.
Here's another thing I'll say. I don't know many of the strength and conditioning coaches that are out there, but I knew the name Tommy Moffitt. I think that says something. And I didn't know him for bad reasons. I knew him for good reasons. So, again, I think for where you are, what was out there, a guy that for some reason Brian Kelly, not for some reason, he decided to bring in his dude, and that's why Moffitt wasn't there anymore. He goes into the private sector, does his own thing. A&M's able to get him. I think it's a slam dunk hire for where we are right now.
I applaud it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's I'm excited about it because it starts now. It starts today. It starts January 1. The new year, new mentality. I think Billy wrote he should be here soon. So
excellent. It's great opportunity for him.
Yeah.
Great opportunity for A&M to make to get some traction moving forward. That's, like I said, it's not the only issue, but it is what was an issue, and it's a move in the right direction, without a doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about that. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us on the Brian Foley Law Hotline, 979-693-1150. You can also text us on that number as well. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. If you're watching on TexAgs.com, hello. If you're listening, I feel like Uncle Leo. Hello? You know Uncle Leo, right?
Yeah, from Seinfeld.
Yeah, see, that's why we get along. You can also, hello to everybody on the zone out there. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to the young Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up with you?
Well, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter after that was announced about Coach Moffitt, but This picture is from about a decade ago, apparently, and he had this posted outside his office. And basically it says, for those listening, attention NFL scouts, these following athletes miss workouts and always have an excuse. These men lack self-discipline and motivation to take care of their responsibilities. And to the right of the picture, it lists about 10 guys who I guess was, miss team workouts or something like that. So it's kind of goes with
I love that.
the mentality that Coach Elko is trying to bring to this school. So
I think, love that too. And I looked at a lot of those names.
Is that the same Sam Montgomery that played for the Texans? If so, he had
and
some.
was underwhelming.
Yeah.
There was a lot of guys that played in the NFL that had underwhelming careers.
Mm-hmm.
On that list.
Yeah, Texans 2013, same guy. Yeah,
he's the guy that said Johnny Football, Heisman, give it to him.
Sam Montgomery's the one who said that?
I believe so.
All right. Well, then he was pretty smart.
But he should have spent more time in the weight room and less time endorsing Heisman contenders.
Well, you know what? I don't know if that would play in today's social media world, but I like accountability. No, I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Speak to me. I'm just saying, oh yeah, I'm transferring. That's it. I'm going in the portal. Coach put me out.
Yeah, but if they're guys that won't work out, then yes, get here. Let me help you pack your bags.
Yep.
If they're not going to do whatever it takes to be the best you can be, especially when you're getting NIL deals and stuff like that, then okay, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Where the good Lord split you. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. By the way, that's brought to you by the Angry Elephant and Our Lady. Kennedy Cavan is today's her last day on the program.
Boo.
She's decided to quit.
I have not decided to quit. I actually graduate college tomorrow.
Really?
What?
Congratulations.
Tomorrow.
Graduate?
Yeah, I know. Never thought I'd make it here.
With a degree in what?
A degree in sociology. Study of human behavior.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
What sociologist do you know, Olin?
The wife.
Oh.
She has 2 degrees.
Or as we like to say, Ermita.
Smart little cookie, huh?
Yeah, she is. Well, she married me, so it goes without saying.
Oh, my goodness.
Cabs, you know how much we love you on this show. We're going to miss your presence, your smiling face, your humor, all of it, and also your organizational skills. No, seriously, you big part of our tailgate parties and planning stuff, so we're going to miss you.
Oh, well, I'm going to miss you guys, but I'm going to be back a lot, so.
Well,
it's not a goodbye. It's just to see you later.
You're going to be here tomorrow, right?
No, I'll be back on Monday and Wednesday.
What are you going to do with that sociology degree?
Actually, I don't know. So since I kind of have an audience, if anybody's hiring in Houston, let me know.
Hey,
I'm looking for a job, guys.
Speaking of getting a job, I got another text message about you yesterday about, hey, Kennedy, but from a different company. I'm shocked. Somebody keeps texting me trying to hire Kennedy.
David is one of my, references on my resume, and apparently people love to text him instead of me. So.
I told him, don't hire her. Just leave me alone. Or hire her if
what
you're never going to text me again.
What a horrible reference. I might have to switch it now.
I'm kidding. I gave you nothing but props. All right, what's going on in the world of news?
Well, everybody's congratulating me now. So thank you, everybody on the YouTube chat. But on the text messages, we've got some pessimistic attitudes this morning.
Tell me
I just
more.
really think that we need to dial it down. But somebody did text in last night saying need to correct OB on the first soccer-style kicker in the NFL.
I didn't say the first soccer-style kicker in the NFL. I said for the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, told him.
Well, they said not Tony
Jan
Fritchie.
Stenerud?
It's Pete Gogolak,
Pete
followed
Gogolak,
by
Giants.
Jan
Jan
Stenerud.
Stenerud, Chiefs. But the first for the Cowboys was Tony Fritch, who replaced straight head kicker Mike Clark, who played his college football where?
Tell me more.
Texas A&M.
Mike Clark is an Aggie. All right. I should know that.
Mike Clark.
Gabe would have known that.
So you don't compare
Tony
yourself,
Fritch
David.
played
It's
for the
okay.
Vienna national team in the World Cup.
The Vienna national
team.
I'm
sorry, Austria is from Vienna.
Okay. Good stuff. What else, Cavs?
And later kicked for the Wars, by the way.
Love you, Blue.
We have men's basketball this Saturday at the Toyota Center against U of H. That's going to be an exciting matchup. How do y'all feel about it?
I think we're gonna get a great performance from Texas A&M OB. I think it's gonna be an inspired performance. I don't know if it's gonna be enough to win, But I will say this: after talking to Wade Taylor yesterday, name drop, and talking to just kind of, Houston hasn't played anybody. They're really good, and I think there are certain teams like Michigan. There was a point in the college football season, people were like, who's Michigan played? But Michigan brought a bulk of their team back from last year, right? So you can kind of read into a prior season. That being said, Houston has developed this reputation over the last decade of just being the same kind of team no matter who's on the roster. They're going to play a certain brand of basketball, as we see from Buzz Williams' teams.
Well, do they not have a bulk of their team back? I don't know.
They do.
From a team that was they exited the NCAA tournament earlier than expected, but still a team that was considered a national championship contender.
Yep.
So it's a great opportunity for Texas A&M. It's a great opportunity. If you go win that one, there's some disappointment after Memphis.
Yep.
If you go win that one, that all that disappointment is gone, and you start saying, how good is this team? And, you start talking about potential seeds even in December. You start talking about the simple potential seeding in March.
Yep. Hey, let's hit a break here. When we come back, I want to talk Edge Cooper with you. Declares for the draft. I know you wrote something yesterday about that. But before, Tommy Moffitt, that's kind of been the focus this morning, or at least to start off this show, strength and conditioning coach. One thing that without talking to Tommy Moffitt, I assume, in fact, I'm damn near certain he's a big protein guy.
Protein.
He is like gram per pound. You know what that means? Gram per pound?
Yeah, it means.
So if you weigh 250, how many grams of protein do you need to have?
Per pound?
250 grams of protein minimum. Some people like to go 1.2. We're talking science here. Some people like to go as high as 1.6, as low as 0.8. He's for sure in the 1.2 to 1.6 category.
Yeah.
So we're going to go above.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If I needed a lot of protein,
tell me where you would go.
Depending on the day, I might go to Fargo's for lunch.
If it ends in Y, I would go to Fargo's unless it's closed.
Well, there you go. Depending on the day. But like today, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're all about, the
macronutrients.
And all those things.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about potatoes?
Potatoes are great.
So
carbs are not bad.
So you could take a potato today and have it stuffed with this awesome, delicious, tender.
Tell me more.
Barbecue beef.
Oh, qué rico eso.
Yeah.
You've been with me to restaurants.
Yes, I have.
typically get the potato without anything in it.
Nothing on it.
Nothing. How do you want your baked potato, sir? Just baked.
Baked.
Just fine. And then I want as much protein as possible next to it. And then a veggie. And you can get that at Fargo.
That would be perfect for you. You get those green beans.
I like the green beans.
To go with your potato stuffed with beef, with brisket. Yeah. That sounds pretty good right now. But that's on a Wednesday.
James Ellis says, I'm 543 pounds. I need a crap load of protein each day. Actually, I think we can lower your protein numbers. We can need to get you in a caloric deficit, but you can still go to Fargo's and get some good protein. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt. The what?
Well, the best barbecue in Texas, which makes it the best barbecue in the mind of God.
Okay, I'm glad you're speaking for him. By the way, that's their trademark.
Well, it's true.
Yeah, it is. It's Fargo's. Look, I got an idea for Tommy Moffitt. If he wants to do a show with me,
Yeah.
we could do a fitness show.
Yeah.
What would we call it? Like, and Bronny can join us too.
Oh my.
2 dudes and a big dude.
Who's the big dude? Brauninger?
I don't know. Moffitt looks like he's still pretty jacked. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. So so yesterday, Edge Cooper announced he's going to the NFL, which we expected to come. I think we should give him some props, not just for the season he had, but you even said it during the break, OB, for believing in the process and development. We've given so many fingers pointed for the lack of development in certain areas. 2 seasons ago, linebacker was a huge issue, and we came into this season thinking, I don't know, man. You get Torian York, but what else is different, right? I'll tell you what was different. Edgerrin Cooper developed into the stud that we thought he could be, and he was actually better than I expected him to be.
He's better than I expected. I mean, I thought he'd be better this year because last year he was in his first year as a starter. You see that often. You learn a lot your first year, and then your second year you get a lot better. That's not uncommon. But he took it to a whole different level. He advanced 2 steps instead of 1.
Yep.
But he was remarkable. When we would always watch and see, you'd see the physical ability and the impact at contact. He's a hard hitter. He could run sideline to sideline. He would show flashes of that big playability.
Yep.
But he just put it all together this year. And again, it was his second year as starter, so it makes sense that he'd be better. But gosh, what he did this year, he was the best player on A&M's team.
It is easy to point fingers at DJ Durkin. The defense was really good this year, but I know why people were disappointed overall, 3-man front too often, yada, yada, yada. But when he took over a linebacker spot, there was an upgrade through all the guys. Torian York was a pleasant surprise. We knew he was going to be a nice player, but he was like a legit starter from day one. Chris Russell had a really nice year. Edge Cooper, like that position, again, you got to give a little bit of props. But at the end of the day, it's Edge Cooper's mind, his ability, and his work ethic that is why he can go to the NFL now. And I think he's going to be highly coveted.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of that guy at LSU when they won the national championship, Patrick Queen. Who was Patrick Queen?
Right.
And then, boom, he has this remarkable year and he becomes a first-round pick of the Ravens. And I would not be surprised if Edgerrin Cooper ends up being a first-round pick. I'm not predicting it. I mean, I don't know. I'm no draft expert, but I know a really good football player when I see one. And I see the leap in improvement that Edgerrin made. And you're thinking, this is just the beginning. That's just the launching pad. Where's this guy going to go? What's he going to be? Wish he was coming back.
Yeah.
But playing another year for A&M, but I get it. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's the right thing to do.
I'm curious, he's an example of a guy that if he came back, can he really help his stock that much more after he's hot right now, right?
No.
Can he really help his stock?
No, I would say he can't. I'd say his stock is higher than it's ever been. It's ever going to be. I mean, like I said, I think he looks to me like, again, in my untrained eye, looks to me like a first-round pick.
So there's certain guys that are coming out, like Anaya Smith. I think the only advantage he has to coming back is he can make a pretty penny in NIL with an uncertain NFL future. Hopefully he just blows it out of the water here through these pre-draft workouts, and people are like, I got to get him in the top 3 or 4 rounds, right? But there are certain players that I think, like Edge Cooper, as much as I want him back, I think he's not only going to test well, but there's enough film on him out there right now, especially after last season, that I think he's not going to go higher other than how he does at this pre-draft stuff.
Yeah, and I can only imagine what 40 time he runs. I think that's what they're going to really look at. He looks plenty fast to me. I do wonder, you brought up Smith, Anias, and I do wonder what he's going to run in the 40, and I think that's going to be the real key to where he goes, because if you the tape, the video of the games and him, you're going to look at that and say, this guy's a football player.
Right.
The attitude, he's going to win that great attitude. The hands, everything. How fast is he? I mean, I think he checks every other box.
You know, kind of like going back to 5 stars you want to have on your roster. I just want some dudes on my team, right? And to me, Ainias is a dude you want on your team.
He was not a 5-star prospect, but he was a 5-star player.
Yep. And 5-star dude.
Yeah, everything about him.
So, and then, you know, Layden Robinson obviously going in. I think he could have benefited from another year, but I understand he's been here a while.
He's been here 5 years. Normally he'd be, you know, going – he wouldn't even have the option.
Right.
But, you know, he has the 2020 year. But, yeah, you know, find out what your worth is. I think Layden could have benefited from coming back. Maybe, but he's also had injury issues.
Yeah.
So, do you want to risk that?
A name that has not declared for the draft, and hopefully he doesn't, Shamar Turner.
Right. Shamar Turner strikes me, from what I've read, and it makes sense, is a guy that could come back, and he's not, from what I've read, and again, it's so early and everything, you know, opinions change. But I've been reading that he's 6th or 7th round grade. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what I've read. I don't know. He's a guy that could play himself into the 1st or 2nd round.
Yeah.
You know, if he comes back, has a really good year, and maybe with a better strength and conditioning, all those things, just be an even better player than he was last year. Or maybe he feels like, you know what, I'm going to be I don't care if I'm a 6th or 7th round pick. Tyrell Dodson left early and didn't get drafted.
Right.
It's working out just fine for him.
Got a text from somebody listening in Louisiana.
Okay.
All right. My name is Darren.
Hi, Darren.
I'm from Louisiana.
Okay.
I have one word for Texas A&M's football team. Desperate.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, honestly, we didn't have a good year. You want us to be passive? Okay, no. Yeah, you got to be desperate. And that's okay. Is desperate bad when you're desperate to have a great football team? Let me know the negativity in that.
No.
Huh.
No, okay.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm desperate.
You're right.
Yeah. It doesn't mean I'm desperate to hook up with whatever random person's out there. Like, in the football world, I think we all should be a little desperate.
I think just about everybody's desperate every year.
Yeah.
I mean, we may be talking about LSU this time next year about how desperate they are without Neighbors and Daniels and some of the guys that are going to lose. And you know, they may take a step back and they're going to be desperate to get better. But yeah.
When you fire a football coach.
And what was his name?
Darren.
Darren, thanks for listening.
Bewitch.
Thanks for listening.
And when you fire a football coach, of course you're desperate to get better. Of course.
Yeah, they fired
Captain Obvious Darren. Good text there, Darren. Hope you're proud of yourself. Nice grammar. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with Bill Liucci.
Bill Liucci
is a good guy. We're going to talk to Billy a little bit about Moffitt, maybe the DC search. We'll see what direction he wants to go with that. A lot to get into right now. By the way, the Association of Former Students, the crew's coming by to hang out with us here, I don't know, like in 50 minutes or so. But if you are looking for a reason to come back to Aggieland or already in Aggieland and looking for a different opportunity job-wise, you should look no further than the Association of Former Students. They're seeking to hire professionals to join their team. They've got positions open in communications, fundraising, former student programs, campus programs, and much, much more. They are the nation's leader when it comes to the association and the oldest organization serving Texas A&M. I'm butchering this for the Aggie Network. They play a part in each and Aggie story from Howdy to Here. Don't miss opportunities to help out the association with Howdy Socials, Aggie Ring Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie Network. If you're interested in joining the team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/associationjobs to apply and get more information on each position. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I do want to read this Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. So after that text from Darren in Louisiana, got a text from Arkansas.
Okay.
Same exact text.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan from Arkansas, and I just wanted to say I love the show and listen to it every morning. Get 'em Aggies.
Oh, I thought he was going to say you're desperate. I was going to say, it's one thing when LSU says you're desperate, but Arkansas says you're desperate.
Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotlines, where we find the executive editor and co-owner of TexAgs, Billy Liucci. Billy, good morning, buddy.
What up, Dave?
How are you, sir?
Good this morning, buddy.
Good. Hey, let's get into the Moffitt hire. Just I'm going to assume you're super excited about this. I feel like it's a home run hire.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, as far as strength coaches go, I know the initial hire, he tried to bring his guy from Duke, and he decided to stay back. I think he had moved multiple times in the last few years. Wasn't going to do that with the family, and then I don't know if those guys overlapped at Miami, he and Manny Diaz, but they might have. And I went and did a little research, in the last couple of days because Moffitt was here. It was 2 days ago he was here, and did a little research, and that was the only candidate that Elko went after. Really since he's been here, because he knew there were reports that his former strength and conditioning guy at Duke was coming over with him. I confirmed straight that was never the case. He never said he was coming. He was never going to come. That was the kind of like, hey, I'm comfortable with you. Let's get over here. And he was never leaving. So there was like a weird time, like a week ago, where it came out that he turned the job down. He had never taken it. It made it sound like Elko was scrambling. So this has been a 2-week search, essentially, for a strength coach from the moment he got the job. And this is the one guy he had zeroed in on and came in a couple days ago, and they reached an agreement and got a deal done. And I think Mike Elko checked that box and probably had to be sitting there going, this is incredible. This is as good as I could have possibly done. You look at the resume. Here's the other thing. The people that go, well, he's from back, he was great years ago. There's two things with that. That strength and conditioning game is I think it's a lot easier to adapt to if you're willing to and you want to than the game of college football, meaning the on-field X's and O's, styles of offense, styles of defense, portal window, NIL, all that. David, you sit there and change your workouts dramatically every 6 months or something. All it takes is the willingness and desire to kind of continually educate yourself. And you look at Tommy Moffitt and all the different degrees and certifications he's got, and you read about what he's been doing since he left LSU, and you realize that he's certainly got that desire and that capacity in that field. He's considered a master of his field. He's considered, I heard you guys comparing him to Schmidt. They're on a very, very short list of people when you think about giants in this space in college football. And Tommy Moffitt is the godfather of many of them. We need he's kind of considered the godfather of modern strength and conditioning in college football. And you look at all the guys that have come up under him. You look at the players he's coached and developed at LSU. Here's the thing. When A&M hired John Chavis from LSU, I got a lot of there wasn't a lot of LSU people saying incredible. You're gonna win championships with John Chavis. A little bit of a red flag. The things that Florida State said we were going to learn about Jimbo turned out to be true. When they, when Max Johnson came over from LSU, there's people saying, hey, he's a great kid. He's a winner. But it wasn't like, oh my God, we're dead here. We're done at LSU. When Tommy Moffitt got hired, every text and phone call I've gotten in the last 12 to 18 hours from LSU people have been just beside themselves, saying what a great hire it is for A&M. They didn't take him from LSU, so nobody's like dancing around crying about it. But basically, the LSU people are like, we wish he was still at LSU. You know, Brian Kelly brought in his guy. That's what he did. That's what a lot of guys do. And he said it's time for Moffitt to move on after being there so long. For example, our boy T-Bob texted me this morning at 6:30. He says, "Choo boy, Tommy Moffitt's a dog," in all caps. Great hire. These guys like LSU revered the new Texas A&M strength coach. I think Olin hit on it. Said those guys are in there every single day with these kids, off season, in season, and I think what that hints at too is the strength coach sets the culture if the head coach allows him to. And I think Mike Elko fully intends on allowing his strength coach to set the culture. There's one thing that no one's ever questioned about Tommy Moffitt through all the national championships, through the jobs. He sets the culture. You have to let him. Jerry Schmidt went back to OU, and they feel like that was the biggest thing he did under Bob Stoops. That's why they wanted him back, because they thought when he left under Lincoln Riley, they lost some of that culture. I don't think Jerry Schmidt was really able to enforce a culture downstairs in that weight room when he was in College Station. And I think that's a large part of why he left. I like a fresh reset sometimes at that spot. There was some excitement over the guy that replaced him for a little bit. But I think inexperience shined through, and I don't think it had to do with the X's and O's in that weight room. I thought it had to do more with accountability and the ability to enforce without skins on the wall. And speaking of on the wall, did you guys talk about, I missed you a minute ago, did y'all talk about the viral sign on the window from 10 years ago?
Yeah.
If that's not enforcement and holding guys accountable, I don't know what is. And OB, I'm sure you referenced the names on that list. Those weren't like 8 spares off of the LSU roster. He's calling out some of their very best players and saying, hey, I'm not talking to you about these guys because they don't show up. They're not accountable. So, yeah, I think you're bringing in the right guy if you want to kind of reestablish what it means to be dependable to your teammates, to show up, to put the work in, and to be fully invested in being a part of this football team. And I think in 2023, it's going to be a hell of a lot more important now than when Tommy Moffitt last did this a couple years ago, because so many kids are going to colleges, not just at A&M, but everywhere, due in large part to how much they're compensated and what kind of NIL deal they can get. So I think it's more important than ever to try to get these guys to embrace the grind and love football.
I will say it seems like when A&M has had some of its better teams, they've always had well-known and well-respected strength and conditioning coaches. I go back to Mike Clark in the 90s and Larry Jackson for the first part of Kevin Sumlin's tenure, until Kevin was looking for scapegoats, and Larry was one, and then Jerry Schmidt. So I think that just kind of shows you can't undervalue what your strength and conditioning coach means.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that's at any level. You know, and by the way, do you know who the strength coach of the Detroit Lions is right now?
I don't. Is it Larry Jackson? I don't.
Close.
I don't know.
Close. It's Mike Clark.
Okay.
Oh.
And you don't think Mike Clark had a lasting impact on Dan Campbell to where he truly believed, like, this is the guy that made me a winner? I mean, obviously RC too, but, to sit there and go, I'm going to hire this guy 20 years later when I'm a head coach in the NFL to be the strength coach of my NFL football team. I mean, that's the kind of potential impact that position can have on college football players. And, this is one that, even the LSU folks are like, damn, great hire. And, I don't know. I haven't looked up his exact age because I really don't care. But I know he's obviously older than some of these guys will come in and probably be in their mid to late 30s when they take over these spots. But just based on talking to, the guy that just hired him, the energy is off the charts. The kind of enthusiasm and the energy. And by the way, if you looked at the guy, he looks about 15 years younger than he is. So maybe OB, you, me, and hell, even Nuño, you're getting up there. Maybe we need to figure out whatever this guy's doing and start doing it.
He's 61.
Young guy.
Okay. He looks like he's 50.
Hey, Billy, let me know if I'm phrasing this correctly. Is Elko tapping the brakes on hiring the DC? Not saying that he's not going to do it when it's time, but like he's got so many things that are out there. He's prioritizing and looking for the right guy at the same time.
Yeah, when I was trying to be careful how I wrote that and worded that because I don't want people to think this guy just, shelve the DC search. I'm just saying I think the sense of like this has to be done now is not it's not at play right now, because I think what has to be done now is he needs to have a defense for the defensive coordinator to field. And because he's a defensive coach and because he was a DC here and at Wake and at Notre Dame, I think because of that, he's like, and that's how he's recruiting defensive players. And that's how he's recruiting the defensive players to stay. And that's how he's recruiting defensive players, on the recruiting level and in the portal, is that we're running not necessarily his defense, but defense is going to rule the day here. That's what we're going to do. We're going to play defense. We've played defense everywhere I've been. Here's my resume. Here are the numbers. He can recruit defensive players. That's not the issue. In a perfect world, you'd go and have had a D coordinator from day one or day two or week in. It doesn't have to be that way, though, when you're looking at when it's Mike Elko doing the recruiting. What has to be, David, is they got to keep guys from going in the portal. Which I think yesterday was a really good day on that front, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. They've got to get guys back in from the portal, and none of these are guaranteed, but I feel better about where they seem to be trending with maybe a Chase DeSantis. Walter Nolan's still a complete unknown. Who knows what he'll end up doing, but they're certainly trying. And then Fidel Diggs is actually still in play, and I just kind of assumed he was going to roll on up to Syracuse, but that one's still in play itself. So there's certainly things to be done right now from the moment he wakes up every day that have to do with keeping players, finding players in the portal. We all know they still need more corners. They still need a linebacker. If you could get a great pure pass rusher, then even better. And then they also have to go out on the recruiting trail and get guys. And because these numbers are dwindling on the recruiting front, they need to go find new targets to offer and try to get as well. So there's a lot happening right now in terms of this roster for this coming season and like the next 2 years.
Billy, we'll get you obviously on the show tomorrow if something breaks. If not, we'll see you on Friday.
All right, Nuño. Thanks, bud.
Thank you, sir. Billy Liucci, executive editor, co-owner of TexAgs Radio. Instead of break here, we'll come back with a short final segment here on the Go Hour. Right now, don't go through another year with that awful joint pain. You should call QC Kinetics up. Make 2024 the year that you get to do the things you love to do. We're talking about Tommy Moffitt and strength and conditioning. Like, be a moment to reset for your life as well, to get back to doing what you love doing. If you got pain, let's get rid of that pain by calling QC Kinetics. That will give you your life back. They are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. These are all natural treatments that can repair and restore that damaged tissue, giving you pain-free movement once again. They've had tens of thousands of satisfied patients all around the country and people in this area as well here in the Brazos Valley. If you have knee pain, you've got back pain, shoulder pain, you want lasting relief with no surgery and no downtime, how about you, and no steroids, by the way, call up the good people there at QC Kinetics. Make the call now so you can get the most out of 2024 and get back to doing what you love to do. If you've got old pain from arthritis or just pain that you've been having, you're trying to figure it out, you need to call QC Kinetics at 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. Final segment of the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. David Nuño, Olin Buchanan here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kennedy Cavan's got a couple texts for us.
I sure do. Windian College Station said, quote from LSU analyst, A&M finally did something right by hiring Moffitt. So I'd say that's not desperate.
Nope, not desperate at all.
I still think they're desperate, but that's okay.
No, but that move is not a desperate move.
It's not a desperate move. It's a wise move.
Right. You could say Petrino was potentially a desperate move. I like the move, but it was maybe like.
Yeah, maybe. Even though, they could have hired you.
I think
I would be very detail
David would do well.
Yeah, but he was allowed to do.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if they're interested. What else we have? Cavs?
Daryl in Florida said, FYI, for those concerned about Moffitt's 2 years off, his youngest child, which is a son, graduated high school this year and is now attending LSU. Seems like good timing and a lucky break for us.
Yeah.
Seems that way. Yeah.
Maybe Quinn and the Moffitt can
I was going to say, OB, do you think Quinn knows him?
I would have no idea, but I'll say this. I would highly endorse and recommend anyone who's in his 60s and has a son at LSU. I think that's a great indication of being good at your job.
Olin, thank you so much for doing the show, buddy.
You bet.
It's part of your gig, but you're good at it. Thank you. All right, when we come back on TexAgs Radio, John Harris is going to join us. The Association of Former Students, the entire association is going to be here in studio. Tom Schuberth in studio. 10 o'clock hour, Bronathan. And also, we'll pound the rock with Tap and Hop. That, and of course, your text messages at 979-693-1150. You are listening and watching TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Welcome back in. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I do this move not to get a freebie, but sometimes it does work out. John Harris, that hoodie you're wearing is freaking fantastic. Welcome to the show on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Good morning, buddy.
Well, thank you. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. And Mark Vandermeer is in here, and he said that, yeah, you can have as many of these hoodies as you'd like. So
I got to talk to Vandy last week. I missed that dude. That's my guy.
I know. Yeah, this one's circa 2017. Been a little while, so it's a little chilly in Houston. So you get to break out all the hoodie gear. I can wear a hoodie pretty much anywhere. So it could be 1,000 degrees. I'll try and still wear the hoodie as much as I can. So yeah, this is one of my favorites. Feeling nice and cozy and getting ready for Tennessee on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a moment. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Johnny, I know how much college football you watch, but how familiar are you with the name Tommy Moffitt, A&M's new strength and conditioning coach? I'm not sure if you followed that world, but the guy was part of the national championship in 2019, has won several national championships, I should say. You heard much about him?
The name is familiar, but it's not a world I live in. I'll say this, though, about strength conditioning coaches. It's funny. I've talked to a lot of coaches over the years, and they'll tell you, head coaches will tell you the most important hire is if you're a defensive-minded coach, who your offensive coordinator is, especially if you're going to call ball plays, and then vice versa. But the most important hire, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is strength and conditioning coach. There's no question. And it sounds obvious to a lot of people, but that position sets the tone for everything that takes place at that university. And it's the way that person and his or her staff connects with these players and draws out swag from them and gets them to push themselves to personal best they can't do. I mean, it's you can't even really put into words what it means to bring in a strength conditioning coach that has national championship ties, has done it somewhere else where he's been great. There are some names that, you recognize. Tommy Moffitt's a name I recognize. I can't tell you, well, why he's great. Oh, because they do Olympic lifts or they do plyometric. I don't know any of that. But the name Tommy Moffitt is definitely familiar for sure. And that should tell you a little bit about what they want to get done at A&M. And I think, obviously, everybody wanted to see who Mike Elko was going to hire as his coordinators. But to me, that strength conditioning coach, that's the one that really connects the players, because that person and his or her staff is next to the players, alongside the players all the time. That's the person that when the head coaches and the assistant coaches can't connect with the players, they can't have communication with them, they can go to that strength staff and say, what's up? How they doing? And I'll never forget LSU. This was back in 2013. LSU strength coach put like six guys' names on a sheet of paper and said something to the extent of, hey, LSU Tigers, just want to let you know, these 6 players are not committing to the rest of you like the rest of you are. And he listed them, and he taped it to his office door. And I was like, okay, that's motivation. It's a different way of doing it. But, they just have different ways of doing it. And I remember a guy that was at Alabama for a long time, Scott Cochran. I think he ended up going to Georgia. Now, I think he ended up with a special teams job, but he was strength conditioning coach for a long time at Alabama. That dude set the tone, and you were going to follow it. And if Saban found out you weren't, you might as well get out the program at that point. So I just feel like that position is so valuable on so many different levels. So that'd be a great hire as far as I look at it.
Johnny, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think we still have the picture. Nick, if you can show the picture, the Moffitt picture of the draft, we'll see if we can get it pulled up here in a second. But bottom line is Tommy Moffitt posted, actually, he had a little sign outside of his door, and it's told, there it is, attention NFL scouts, look at these dudes right here. They're not doing their work. That's the Tommy Moffitt special right there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So I didn't realize he was at LSU. So that's exactly it. And you can look at those names. And there's one right down at the bottom. I mean, look at some of these names.
Sam Montgomery, buddy.
Lyle Collins, Quan Alexander. At the very bottom was Sam Montgomery. And I remembered seeing this during the fall of that year. And then the damn Texans went out and drafted that dude.
Yep.
And I'm like, what are we doing? And the guy never played. Never played.
Isn't he the one who got in trouble, Johnny? Like preseason, doing something like he and a couple other guys were doing something dumb, and they got kicked off the team. I feel like Sam was in that mix.
Well, there was the Kansas City 3. Dudes were smoking weed in the team hotel the day before playing Kansas City, and I can't remember. I can't remember if he was part of that group. I know there were 2. I don't think he's part of that group, but he had issues.
Yeah,
he had many issues. And he was a 4-3 defensive end. The Texans wanted to be a 3-4 outside linebacker. I was like, that didn't fit. I didn't understand it at all. I was really disappointed with that pick. And a lot of it had to do with that particular picture. That's the one I'm talking about. I didn't realize that was Tommy Moffitt that did it. So I love it. Calling out your dudes saying, hey, man, these guys aren't living up to the standard of being an Aggie. What are you going to do about it? And when you get the players, they're the ones that are kind of running things. That's when you know you've got a program. And I feel like at play, like Georgia. I feel like if a guy went in and slacked off in the weight room at Georgia, man, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and N'Kobe Dean, those dudes were going to be they were going to take care of it themselves. Like, you're not part of us, man. So I do think there's a culture that gets built through the weight room. I was never a big weight room guy. I always played 3 sports growing up in high school, so I never really devoted time to weights at all. Until I got to college. But I understood how much a part of it was, because you showed gains and your strength conditioning staff would be like, yeah, man, they'd just be hyped for you. And that just gave you that much more confidence. I didn't love our strength conditioning coach because I thought he was a tool, but I think if you have a good one, I think you can do a whole heck of a lot more than you think you can.
Johnny, let me ask you about the timing of everything that happens in college football. Right now, A&M is in a weird spot, right? You let go of Jimbo. You hire Mike Elko. You've got the transfer portal happening at the same time as National Signing Day a couple of weeks away. You have this bowl game that, in the grand scheme of things, and look, I know the Texas Bowl is a big deal, but like,
no, you can say it. I get it.
It's a distraction right now to what has to happen. You've got coaches that are coaching the Texas Bowl that are also working eventually for another program, right? Like, it's just the timing of it all, man. Just if you could speak to that and how conflicted a coach like Mike Elko probably is, and what the future could look like if they could adjust some of the windows a little bit.
The bowl game, I mean, as much as I want the bowl game to matter, because it is here, I do think I think bowl games might change in the future from what we expect out of it. To me, I think bowl games are going to eventually turn into an advanced spring game where coaches are just going to be like, you know what, believe me, the result doesn't matter. Let's go get some sophomores and freshmen. Let's go get them some time on the field. Make sure we're competitive. But we go to Texas Bowl, we're going to play our young guys. Obviously, seniors, thanks. We appreciate it. Like to stick around, great, but if not, we're not expecting you to. This is the way we're treating this game. And so seniors kind of know, okay, the last regular season game, that's my last regular season game. That's it. Because once we get to the bowl game, this is what's going to happen. Now, that's something you can establish once Mike Elko is there and going forward. Now, the hope is that you eventually get the playoff games and then everybody's playing and they all matter and away you go. But you're not there yet. And a lot of teams, I look at it and think, put it this way, 2021 season, LSU moved on from Ed Orgeron. They came here to play in the Texas Bowl. They had Jontre Kirkland playing quarterback, who was a wide receiver. They didn't have any quarterbacks on the roster. The only one they had was Nussmeier, and they didn't want to – he had already 4 games, so they didn't want to blow his red shirt. Now they've changed the rule, and they're allowing those players to play in a bowl game. So, but I'm watching this game against Kansas State, and I left. I did my halftime thing, and I left. I'm like, I'm not watching this because LSU – they basically brought their spring practice roster, and Kansas State brought everybody, and Kansas State just stumped them. So it was not a competitive game. But I think in due time, that's what we're going to get to. It's going to be kind of an advanced spring game scrimmage, which is cool. It's fine. I don't mind that. When you change coaches, though, like you said, David, you got all of that to consider. To me, if I'm Mike Elko, the bowl game is the last thing that you even want to tangle with. You set out your coaching staff for whoever's going to be in that coaching. And I remember that game for LSU, they had an offensive coordinator that was going elsewhere or was being fired. That was his last game. He wasn't even offensive coordinator, I don't think. I think he might have been the quarterback's coach, and they didn't have anybody else. They were coaching with like 6 coaches and like 8 graduate assistants. So it ends up being kind of great experience in a way. And so that's the way, if I'm Elko, I treat it like, hey, we're going to send these 5 or 6 coaches. Elijah's coaching it. Go coach your butt off. Because some guys get an opportunity in these games to be an interim coach for a game. They at least can put that on the record, and they get the experience of doing it in a bowl game, put it on a resume, and you never know when that can pay off down the road. But honestly, the bowl game is the last of the things you have to do. The NFL spreads it out a little bit better because the NFL's got free agency that starts in March, and then the draft is the end of April. So there's at least separation between the two. That, I think, is the problem right now in college football, is that you got transfer portal and 4-year recruiting going on at the same time. And you got to spread it out. You got to think like the NFL does. And maybe that's what this new Division I plus is going to be. They'll think more like the NFL, like, okay, let's think about this. Transfer portal, you got January and February. 4-year recruiting is not going to be until, I don't know, March, April. I don't know, flip them, whatever. But you got to separate the two. This is too much for college coaches to have to worry about transfer portal on one side, keeping your players at A&M, talking to players and recruiting them out of the portal on the other side. And then you're also worried about your 4-year recruiting at the exact same time. Like, no, the NFL's got it right from that perspective. You got pro scouts, you got college scouts. They meet a little bit at certain times, but those things are separate, and they're separate by about 2 months. And that makes things just that much easier. The scouts, GMs know, okay, it's time to focus on free agency. At the same time, going to pro days and doing those kind of things, but they're separate. You don't have to make a decision on a draft pick for a while. You can just go get some information, and then on the way home, you can, okay, which free agent are we going to sign? You go from there. This is almost too much for college coaches to have to do, especially in a coaching change. So there's so many things that get lost in the wash in there, and that's what's, to me, is interesting. As a player, going to the transfer portal that you think you could have kept, and you get so locked into recruiting 4-year guys that oh, man, we should be putting more emphasis on keeping that transfer. Oh, no, he transfers out. It's just crazy right now, and I don't I don't envy college coaches at this point having to deal with all this, because they got. I know it's gonna sound weird. They got to think about themselves too. They got to think about their families. Like, am I gonna have a job at A&M? Like, am I gonna have a job? Do I know I have a job? Is the bowl game performance dependent on whether I get a job or not? Do I need to be interviewing with other schools instead of staying here and coaching this bowl game? So it's a tough one on coaches for sure. And I know, just talking to some of the college coaches, this is the one time of year they absolutely abhor. They hate this time of year. And there's some that I know some head coaches that aren't at the A&M level, the SEC level, that have been dreading this time because they're losing so many kids to the portal, and they know it. And it's that much more difficult for them to keep the program going year after year with the same continuous group. But it's kind of the way college football has gone. It's more like the NFL now than ever.
Johnny Edge Cooper yesterday said he's going to be declaring for the NFL draft. Your thoughts on what kind of pro he could be?
LB1. I think he is outstanding. It's interesting because after the 2021 season, I put him in my Harris 100 for 2022 last year. And watching him, he just seemed kind of slow to react. It just felt like he wasn't totally sure of what he should be doing on the field. Now, some of that could be growing pains. Some of that could be learning a new defense. 2023, forget it. That dude played at a level that every linebacker in the country needed to play at. And you've got a couple linebackers. Danny Stutzman, Oklahoma, is going back. Barrett Carter at Clemson is going back. So those would be two guys that would have been in a mix to be linebacker one. I still probably would have gone with Cooper. But right now, as it sits, and I don't think it changes much, Edgerrin Cooper is linebacker one. Speed, able to diagnose, play screens, spy on mobile quarterbacks, everything that he needs to be a next-level linebacker. Now, I would like to see him play and be a little bit more instinctive. Sometimes I think he guesses right as opposed to knowing right. And I think those are things that he can learn as he gets to this league. But I think about a guy like Edgerrin Cooper playing in our defense. Forget it, man. It would be on. I mean, that's the kind of guy we got to have. And I think that's the kind of guy DeMeco would love. DeMeco obviously loves linebackers. He would love a guy like that. So, yeah, he's linebacker one for me. I saw that news, and I wasn't surprised. I don't like A&M, obviously, because they lose a great player going on into the next year at SEC. But I know that guy has maxed out what he could do at A&M, and now it's time to go do it in the NFL.
Johnny, last thing for you. What happened in New York, and how do the Texans move on from that, especially with so many injuries hitting the team on the offensive side?
Oh, man. I don't know, David. I mean, that's a crucial point of the season that we just, I don't want to say we let get away. The Jets, the Jets are better than anybody thought. We knew the defense was great, and we let the defense control the game. Not having Tank was bad, really bad. Then we lost Nico. So now you're without Nico, Tank, and Dalton Schultz, the top three pass catchers on the team. Like, uh-oh. And you're going against Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. So we were kind of set up in some sense for this. And so I was not thrilled. Like the whole week I was kind of dreading that trip because I'm like, I just don't like this. I don't like it at all. I got a feeling Zach Wilson's just going to let it hang loose. And their stars, as DeMeco said, their stars made plays, and we didn't. So now we go to Tennessee. We don't know if CJ's playing. We don't know who's available at wide receiver. And we got to face the Titans wearing their Oilers jerseys, coming off a win over the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, like that said, I'm much more excited about going to Tennessee and taking on these guys than last week. Much, much more excited.
Johnny, appreciate you. What can you tell us all about what's going on footballtakeover.com? Anything new?
I kind of stepped back after the college season was over, so about time to start picking up some bowl write-ups. Check out my YouTube page. You can check out my Edgerrin Cooper YouTube that I did. This was actually before the South Carolina game. I broke down about probably 7-8 plays of why Edgerrin's going to be linebacker one. So you can go check that out at JH Football Takeover on YouTube. Going to keep it going. The draft stuff's going to pick up hot and heavy very, very soon. I'm curious to see what more comes out of the NFL draft. McKinley Jackson is going to be a top 50 player, no doubt. I think Edgerrin Cooper will be a top 50 player, and we'll see where else it goes from there. But a lot of stuff over there. So sign up. If you want, go sign up on my YouTube page. Appreciate it, David. You're the best, man.
Thank you, Johnny. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. See you, bud.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back with the Association of Former Students here in studio. Right now we're talking about don't replace it. I don't like the way I said that. Don't replace it. Lift it. We're talking about Ascend Concrete Lifting and Support. They are locally owned and Aggie-operated concrete lifting and support company providing an easy, clean service at half the price of replacement. So if you thought about replacing your driveway or any piece of concrete around your home or maybe your business, you don't have to completely replace it, guys. You can just lift it and get it all even looking almost brand new. That's the beauty of it. At a fraction of the cost, 60 years of experience in this world. Brian Dickerson is the best. He's Aggie-owned, and he loves bringing the service here to the Brazos Valley, but it goes beyond the Brazos Valley, guys. They're all over the place. They can go national. They can go statewide. They can go wherever the job needs them to go, but especially right here in the Brazos Valley. They want to educate you on the lifting process. They also want to make sure that they show you what signs to look for, wherever it may be, potentially pulling water, porches, patios, you name it. They provide an honest opinion regarding your residence, lake house, or any home dwelling. Also, commercial-wise, factory floors, apartment complexes, warehouse and floors, industrial, roads, streets, highways, bridges, you name it. A fraction of the cost. Remember, it is Ascend. Convenient, free estimates, locally owned, and Aggie-operated. Follow them, Ascend Lift, on Facebook, Instagram, or call them up, 979-933-8527. 979-933-8527. Don't replace it. Lift it. We are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Time for Around the Association. Scott Walker in the house, class of 90, Vice President. Hello.
Hey, buddy.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
I like that shirt.
Thank you.
Compliments there. Allison Seabrook, class of 2011, also Vice President. Hello. How are you?
Great to see you, David.
Great to see you. So this is kind of like the end of year. We're looking back. We're looking ahead. And there's everything you all do, you need help. And I know you got some thank yous for the folks.
Oh, absolutely. We, like I said, we're coming to the end of the year. We're actually on a calendar fiscal, unlike the university. So university operates basically summer to summer. We operate January to December, so we're coming to the end of the year. We've done almost 400 events this year, so many scholarships, and 3 massive ring days, and all of countless musters, all Aggie tailgates, and all of that is only possible because of the support that we get from generous Aggies all around the world. Everything we do is possible because of them, and we're enormously grateful to all of them.
And you still need their help to be able to continue to do what you do.
Absolutely. Every year we start over, right? Yeah. I mean, it's we're trying to raise almost $12 million this year.
Okay.
Before the end of the year, not quite at our goal. So if people haven't given, we encourage them to do so. If they have, we're very grateful. Still time to get that tax deduction before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that the money we receive is so that we can help Texas A&M and help Texas Aggies in very tangible ways. We get thank you letters every day from Aggies talking about how we changed their life. Got one a couple weeks ago from a young man who we gave him money and he was able to buy a carbon fiber prosthetic leg.
Oh, wow.
And he'd had previous ones, but they were all very painful, and they didn't offer much support. And he wrote this lovely note about how he felt like he could be active in the student population at Texas A&M again because of the help that we gave him. It was very touching. And that's what these gifts mean. And we're not asking anybody for $1 million or $100,000. It's $100 or $12 a month or $50 if that's what you can do. Small gifts make a big difference when you aggregate 60,000 of them together.
Allison, I remember, I think it was a couple years ago, I Am the Why, the campaign. But there's a lot of whys to what you do, and it continues to funnel through with what you're working on in the future.
Yeah, there's thousands of stories out there like Scott talked about and how we make a difference. We're really unique in that we support current students as well as former students. We're one of the biggest, alumni networks in the country, supporting over 500,000 former students. That takes resources to be able to support, all those former students across the world. We have Aggies so many places. So all the support for A&M clubs, the rain days we conduct, career services we provide, the scholarships that we provide annually, provides over $13 million impact on Texas A&M. And we're independent from Texas A&M.
Right.
So we don't receive any financial support. All of the gifts that we raise help us to serve our mission and to serve Texas Aggies.
Well, let's go a little deeper into that. The Century Club, which I'm a member. Let's talk a little bit about the impact and why the funds help that area.
Yeah. So Century Club has been around since 1965 from a lot of great Aggies that you hear people that have 50-year bars on their plaque. It's to inspire people to give back to Texas Aggies and Texas A&M. For a gift of $100, you can join the Century Club for the first time. You can renew, or you can buy back previous year bars. So if you have any year bars missing, it's a great way to give back this year. All that money goes to support all of our efforts this year. And we've got over 60,000 donors typically that give to the Century Club.
Wow. So give us examples of how people can help out the association.
Yeah. So if they want to give at tx.ag/give, you can sponsor somebody's Century Club membership, a son or a daughter or a family member. Maybe you can support them for the first time or renew their Century Club membership. It's a great Christmas gift this year. Maybe even a graduation gift. If you've got a former student or a current student that's going to be becoming a former student, you can sponsor their Century Club just for $50 for the recent grad discount. And you can tell other people about it as well. Maybe somebody you don't know who's not yet a Century Club member, tell them why you give, why it makes a difference in the lives of Texas Aggies.
Scott, give us a little glimpse at the future, what the next year looks like, maybe the next couple of years.
One of the things that the association brings to the Worldwide Aggie Network and to Aggie Land is consistency and continuity, right? We've been here since 1879, basically 3 years after the university was founded. Our CEO's been in place for 23 years, I think, at this point. We are one of the largest organizations of our kind. We as she noted, we're independent. We don't take a penny from Texas A&M. Instead, we support Texas A&M, and that's unusual for alumni associations. And so what people can count on in the future is we're always going to be here through thick and thin, economic downturns, whatever's going on at the university. We're always going to be here, and we're always going to be focused on helping Texas A&M and helping Texas Aggies, whether that's students, former students, future students, Aggie parents. We love them all, and we want them to thrive and be a vibrant part of the Aggie network.
Association is always growing too. Like you've got some positions potentially available.
Absolutely, it's a great place to work. It feels like we're always hiring these days because there's so much going on. We have positions open that are sort of more front-facing and in the field with travel, and we have positions that are more back of the house in accounting and places like that. So yeah, we got a lot of great career opportunities for people, whether they're fresh out of school or looking to move back to Aggie land after being away for a while. It is a great place to work.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And you get to make a difference, right? You
Yeah.
get these letters that they make you cry, and you realize, wow, we're not making widgets over there, right? We're doing something that really changes lives.
People forget, like, it's not just the former students you help. You're helping current students. You're helping people's dreams right now.
Yeah.
100%.
Thank you both for coming in. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
David.
Yeah, we appreciate you. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, Tom Schuberth in studio to talk a little Aggie basketball. That and more is next on TexAgs. I'm kidding. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Those of you watching on YouTube, why don't you do a little like for us or subscribe to it? It would help out. Those of you watching on the CW, hello. Of course, our friends on the Zone and TexAgs.com. Tom Schuberth in studio, the coach, is with us. Hello, sir.
Good morning, David.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Let's, I guess I want to start off, you and I exchanged some texts before this interview. I want to start off with maybe your disappointment level, because not only were you disappointed in the loss to Memphis, you were disappointed in the way they played basketball. So I'll start it off there and you run.
Sure. I don't want to be critical, because coaching is very difficult. And as an ex-coach, it's easy to criticize people when, you're just sitting up there watching. But I think if you asked every fan that's been going to the A&M games regularly, that was the first time in like two and a half years where I walked out of Reed Arena disappointed, not just for the loss, but the way we played. We just looked a little disheveled. We didn't have a rhythm when we did make our runs, which we usually get back into the ball game. We came down and take like a crazy shot or turn it over. So I think what we do well is we play super hard. We're an incredible rebounding team. We're great defensively. Now I hope we fine-tune some of the things we're not good at. And if I was going to be critical, I'd say A&M shot selection is what is our demise right now and what's cost us some negative things in ball games. And that's easy to fix, but it's going to take a while, and it's going to take some attitude changes and then maybe identity, who's the shooters and who's not.
Talking to Tom Schuberth here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're going to talk Houston towards the end of this, but right now, how does the team move on from the Memphis game with the toughest challenge of the year ahead, a team that will match you with physicality, speed, defensive intensity? They do everything that A&M likes to do.
Arguably, they're probably right now playing the best basketball of anybody in the country, and they've got two great guards, but we'll talk about them later. But right, I think it's a great challenge. The good news is it's on a neutral court, and they're undefeated, and I really believe I've been on some undefeated teams long stretches into the season, and it's hard to play because you're getting everybody's A game. You're playing technically not to lose, but we usually come out, or A&M does, and surprises people when we have our backs against the wall. We got to take great shots. I know we'll match their intensity and the rebound, and I think our stats are almost identical to one another. But they also have a lot to play for, Houston. So I'm looking for us to hopefully control the basketball, maybe not play as fast or shoot as quick. You've got to reverse the ball on them because they're so good. Their initial set defense is so good.
When you talk about the point guard position overall, it's not necessarily just Wade. It's ball handling responsibilities and initiating the offense.
Correct. I don't want to be critical, but I've never liked Wade at the point only because he's such a great scorer and shooter. I know he can play there some, and he does a tremendous job with assists and steals. But we were talking earlier, Quinterly from Memphis, to me, he looks to pass and get the others involved first, and then when he needs to score, he takes that over. I think if Wade can do that, that'll actually help his offense production. He's obviously pressing. I heard your interview with him yesterday. I was so impressed with him. Usually guys will make excuses or, point fingers. He was so mature about it. So I know he's going to get it solved, but we need someone to handle that point guard position and run the team and worry about the other four guys first and their personal stats next.
Yeah, what I took away from that interview is he's very cerebral. He's very aware, but he's also not worried. And I like that from my point guard. Like, I haven't been shooting all right, but it's coming.
Sure. David, the NBA, those guys take a lot of tough shots. I call them tough threes, and a lot of them go in and a lot of them miss. It seems like the college game has evolved to that a little bit because those young men watch, and even young ladies on the WNBA, and they want to emulate that. To me, tough shots you're not going to make them consistently. You may have a game where they go in, like David Jones made some tough ones against this Memphis. But when you take good shots and you're a good shooter, your percentage is going to be good. Right now, we don't have anybody other than, I think, Hefner shooting the ball well from the three, and he's probably the most selective of the guys in taking it,
So I hate saying it like this, but I don't mean it necessarily as a negative. But I feel like Wade's game, with the way the defenses are playing him now, is dependent on having a guard next to him that can take a little bit of the load off. That could be ball handling duties. That could be hitting some shots to open them up. It could be attacking the rim. But I feel like it's not just Henry or a front court player. It's got to be something more from the guard position beyond what Wade gives you.
Sure, and I think when you have another guy in there that's shooting the ball well or playing well, whether it's Hefner or Boots, absolutely. And so it's hard to key on two guys, especially when you can stretch the defense and kind of have them on different ends of the court. So hopefully Wade won't be as pressured as much. Again, listening to his interview yesterday, I'm confident that he's going to get it solved. One of the things he did a lot last year, and I'm a fan of it because you watch him and he's so good at it, is he'd dribble up the court and he'd pull the ball from about 35 feet and shoot it in rhythm.
You like that?
I do. The only thing I don't like about it is that no one else touches the ball. But when they're going in, then the defense has to stretch out a little bit.
When you're hot, I like that shot.
Correct.
When you're struggling, I want you to attack the rim. I want you to get to the free throw line. When the team itself is struggling. Now, don't get me wrong. You hit one of those, it can ignite the team. But I always do, like in my mind, when I see that in a basketball game, risk versus reward. What's the risk? What's the reward?
Absolutely. That's a great comment. When you do shoot a long three, especially with no one else touching it, that gives the opportunity for the team to rebound and push it the other way and get numbers. But the other thing that happens when you do penetrate, and I've seen it against Florida Atlantic, when you get in there and you miss a drive and then maybe you fall down, that other team gets ignited and pushes it and gets a fast break the other way. But hopefully we'll get it solved. When I say we, A&M, I just think we need to be a little more patient and quit taking tough threes. We're a good three-point shooting team when the right guys are shooting them at the right time, whether that's the defense that's doing that to us this year or whether it's just our poor decisions. I guess the season will bear out and let us know that.
David Jones had himself a ball game. We already talked about Quinterly. When a team or a player gets hot like that, especially with an A&M defense that is really good, was that just a hot hand? Was it some defensive issues maybe from the way they were attacking him? What did you see?
Well, I think early he got on a roll. He had 21 in the first half. I thought in the second half we did a good job on him, but ironically he hit like two tough threes at the end of the shot clock that just kind of broke our back. He was 8 for 17, so that's not a great percentage, but he made them at the timely where they needed it, and they were late in the clock. So I thought we adjusted and took him out of the game in the second half per se, but then it was Quinterly. And what I loved about him, he picked his spots. He was impressive at Alabama last year. To me, he's one of the best point guards in the country, and that's why I think Memphis has a chance to be good. Memphis is a lot like us. They go on streaks, and I thought when we made those rushes and cut it to 2 or 4, we were going to get over the hump. But then we came down, took a bad shot, turned it over a couple times, and then Memphis took advantage of it.
Coaching methodology. I know if you're hitting threes, it's obviously, even if you hit 30%, it's like hitting 50% from the two. I get all that, right? But when you're not a good three-point shooting team and you keep relying on three-point, and look, they're streaky. They can hit threes. There's no doubt. Wade is an excellent three-point shooter. I think Jace Carter is going to be excellent for this team, right? But when they're not falling as a team, not a player, as a team, what do you say during timeouts? Do you say you keep taking your open shots?
I think you need to look at the quality of the shot. Open shots, yes. Contested, tough shots, no. I'm not a big believer in tough shots. I don't even like it in the NBA. I know they have to do it because the shot clock's only 24 seconds, and it's more of an entertainment, and they're the best in the world. But, yes, you've got to get some inside touches. Henry Coleman, Sunday, didn't touch the ball enough, in my opinion. He's a great scorer. He's proved it every game this year. I mean, he's averaging a double-double. I think he had 6
Was that on him, though?
Well, no, it wasn't on him. Someone has to throw him the ball, and then again, Memphis a good rebounding team. We fouled out Dandridge, their big scorer inside. I thought we would go right into Henry and get him touches and, see what he can do, but we really never did. And again, I think we were pressing from the 3, trying to get it back in a hurry, and it just didn't work our way. And then we got a little disappointed or struggled. Usually we find a way to come back at home. Obviously, we've been having a long winning streak, but we just didn't have it, and so we'll see if we can rebound on Saturday.
Another point on the defense, I didn't like the fouls. Okay, there was a lot of fouls in that game, and by the way, Memphis was hitting their free throws. Yeah. In your experience, it's never as simple as one thing. Were they out of position? Were they just a little too handsy? What What do you think? Why were they fouling more than we've seen recently?
In the pregame, I talked about I thought there would be a tough officiated game because both teams are athletic and physical and strong, and they try to trap you in certain situations. So I don't think it was anything we did mistake-wise. I think Memphis picked their spots, found the gaps, and put pressure on the defense. And then, like you said, they made their free throws. They're really not a great free throw shooting team. Ironically, I looked up at the scoreboard late, and I thought, man, Memphis is shooting free throws. Well, I looked up, we were actually shooting a little better. We were making ours. Of course, we're good at it. But I don't think it was defensive mistakes as much. Memphis was aggressive. They came in trying to make a statement because they've been playing up and down. They were barely beat VCU in an overtime game. They just lost their star player. They're saying it's sickness, but I think it's more personality and NIL situations. So I think Memphis, I give credit to Memphis more so than us breaking down.
Well, who is somebody you think is due? And not Wade. Boots is the easy answer because he'd missed time. But who's somebody you think that is due to have a performance?
Jace Carter.
Yeah.
I wish we would get him some outstanding looks. I mean, when you watch his three-point shot and his range, I mean, it's picture perfect. And he's obviously a good three-point shooter. He did it at his career at UIC. So I wish we would get him some looks. I think he'll be the guy that's the next one to get it going. Boots, I don't know. If I was a defensive coach against him, I'm making him shoot the three. I think he's so good. Remember in the second half when he made those drives to the basket, got mid-lane. He's a great mid-range player. So you want him to shoot the three. Even though his percentage is a little over 33%, that's not his game.
But if they're trapping Wade and he gets the ball, that should create some kind of lane to attack, right?
I think so. I think he should go right to the basket, and then if he doesn't have that look, he kicks it out to Hefner or to Carter or back to Wade, and then we're so good on the offensive boards, and that's why it's not a premium. I mean, you want to make your first shot, but the unique thing is, and Houston is this way, get the ball on the glass with an opportunity to get second and third attempts, and the bottom line is you want to shoot a good percentage, but you want to score. And if you get 2 or 3 points every possession you have the ball, you're probably not going to lose the game.
So have we, and I might be a prisoner of the moment where I can't remember, have we had a game this year where Boots, Henry, and Wade have had like those elite type games? I don't think all three together have had that game.
No, in fact, I think sometimes even two. It's hard to find two. Of course, Henry's been incredible inside and consistent, shooting a high percentage, so he's opening up for those guys. But I think we'll put it together. It'll be interesting. It's a tough game to do it against Houston because they're going to take away all your strengths, and they're experienced. They went on a summer tour as well, David, to Australia this summer, and I know they played the Australian national team, which is comprised basically of the NBA, every Australian NBA player, and they got beat almost 35 points. But they also blew out 3 or 4 other teams. I think they learned a lot from that. So they're going to be a tough team to try to figure it out against, but hopefully we can go in there and play well and have a good outing. Shorten the game and then see what happens. And then we got some home games, so it'll be interesting to see when we start SEC play what our record is. I can't imagine having any more than 4 losses, though.
So what do you think is the key against Houston?
I would shorten the game. If I was the coach right now, not knowing any more about A&M and Houston, I'd shorten the game, less possessions. I'd make sure I take quality shots. I think you're going to see more tip-outs in this game than you would in a volleyball match because both those teams are tenacious on the offensive boards. And their philosophy, I know when talking to coaches, that do this, if they can't grab an offensive rebound, their job's to tip it out so maybe your teammate can get it. Houston's incredible at that. I think they're the ones that kind of made it popular, to be honest. We do a tremendous job. I would shorten the game, make sure we take quality shots. I think our defense will be there. Houston, they don't score a lot of points. They have very few guys that are in double figures, but they win as a committee and win as a team. And then you can't let Cryer get an open look because he's going to make them. I mean, he's shooting in the 40%, and he's obviously a national champion at Baylor and a very good player.
Do you know Kelvin Sampson at all?
I do. Yeah. I know him very well. Interviewed with him one time and didn't get the job, but I'm a fan of his because he's about consistency and habits. It's a culture there that's hard for most guys to play in. Similar to what A&M does. Not everybody can play at Houston or A&M just because the culture's so difficult, but it's successful, and that's what makes it fun.
People forget Houston was, like, before he got there, it was always maybe if they ever get it right. Well, they got it right with Kelvin Sampson.
They did, absolutely.
Tom, I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. Right now we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They're on Highway 21 in Caldwell. They're online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you go to their website, you're going to see some of the vehicles that they have on the lot. Really good vehicles. If you're looking for an SUV, that's where we got our Tahoe. Great selection of cars. And when you go there as well, you're going to get a great trade-in value for your vehicle. So when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you're going to get great customer experience, great customer service, the great cars, and, of course, the trade-in value. You put that all together, and you're going to have a very pleasant experience. They've got complimentary pickup for all their service customers. So when you start going there and you say, all right, I need my oil change or whatever it may be, they've got you. They'll bring you the car back after they've taken care of it. That's what they do at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Also, they are proud supporters of all A&M athletics. It's about a 15-minute drive. Brian of Caldwell, a short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in on the program. I got a short little segment here. Somebody mentioned, hey, you guys should take more callers. You can call 979-693-1150. If you're good, we'll listen to you. If you're not, we won't. This is just how we roll. We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Miss Cabin, on your last day again, I got to remind people. I think we got a text or two to get into.
Yes, we do. JB in Canyon said, ask him if he thinks the star factor with playing in front of Penny caused some players to press a little.
I'm going to answer that very simply. Do you know who Penny is?
You just told me it's the coach at Memphis.
But did you know him from his NBA days?
No, I don't like
Dawson, did you know? Yeah, you're familiar with his work? Penny Hardaway used to be a huge star in 1993. So no, I don't think it had anything to do with it. I mean, they've played against them a couple years in a row, by the way, so this is not like the first time they've gone against Penny Hardaway. I don't think that's the case. I understand the question, but the last time Penny Hardaway as a player was relevant, let's see, 2003 season, 2003-2004 season, he averaged 10 points a game, double figures, right? That's the last time. So 20 years ago, he had a double-figure season. After that, he had a couple of, look, he was a star, the little Penny, all of it, but I don't think these 18 to 22-year-olds were at all affected by that. Look, they didn't shoot well. You don't shoot well, you're going to lose games. Memphis shot well. They didn't play good defense. Memphis has got some athletes. It was just not a good day. So, no, I don't think it had anything to do with that. I understand the question because he was a star. But, again, he was a star when I was in high school. I'm old, guys. So I don't think it had anything to do with it. I think Michael Jordan over there, LeBron James, different conversation. Penny Hardaway, and I have a lot of respect, especially when he was the top of the world. He was a really fun player to watch. I really enjoyed his work in the 1995 NBA Finals as well. Oh, that's the one that the Rockets swept the Magic. Anyway, when we come back on TexAgs Radio, Bronathan will be in studio. Ryan Brauninger, a little recruiting country. After that, we're going to pound the rock with Tap and Hop. One syllable for both of those guys. We'll do that. We'll get to your text messages. And in fact, if you want to call the show, we'll even take that phone call. 979-693-1150. Hot Sports Take Jake here on TexAgs Radio. That and more next on TexAgs. We're back on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for Recruiting Country. That is brought to you by Caprock Health System, faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area. You got the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch and the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online at caprockhealthsystem.com. With that, we've got Ryan Brauninger. Ronnie, hello, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. I love that the fact that Nick has gotten – he just barks at you now. I don't even know if he says words to tell you that you're coming back. He just makes a sound. And it sounds like a bark.
Yeah.
It's like a bark.
But, that started because I think Zane was famous for yelling for, answers during the show.
You know what's crazy to me is that whenever myself or anybody else sits in that back room or in the foyer during the show when a certain someone is on and talking into this mic, that certain someone says they can hear people talking in the back and it gets distracting, or he can hear people talking in the foyer and it gets distracting, when most of the time I tell him things that I don't think he hears whenever I'm talking to him face to face.
Well, it's
crazy how his sensory level kind of.
Well, there are times that I am actually doing a monologue and I'm looking at this camera per se, and there are people right there watching like we're at a circus, right? Yes. We have a window, and they're trying to get and I just
like you're in the zoo, yeah.
But I'm tunnel vision, whatever. And I got Nick talking in my ear, which doesn't.
You're
bug
a pro,
me.
though. I'm not a pro, and neither is he.
Well, I think you guys are. So I'm going to start off with a question that you've answered before, but for people who are asking, there was somebody on the YouTube chat that said, "Can you ask Brauning how Elko is as a recruiter? How does he compare to Jimbo?" And just. That's something that I know you have squelched on the boards before. Elko's a really good recruiter.
Well, we don't know how Mike Elko is as a recruiter at a place like this as the head coach.
Right.
We've already seen him get out more and visit with high school coaches more and run the roads more now than we did during his first stint here. And for anybody to come up with a narrative about what kind of recruiter he is or isn't up to this point, because of what you thought you learned about him as a defensive coordinator or what you think you've learned about him over 16 days on the job, that's a little preemptive, right? And it's it's short-sighted, and I think the focus of it is too narrow. The fact of the matter is we don't know yet. We've got a good idea. We can say there are some things about him on the recruiting trail right now. He's organized. He is running the roads like crazy. I mean, he has been in San Antonio. He's been in Mississippi. He's been in College Station. He's been all over Houston. He's been all over Dallas. I don't know how much free time he's got to do things in College Station, because it seems like most of the weeks so far have been spent on the road visiting kids, visiting high schools. So hardworking is the number one attribute I can give to him right now. But in terms of how effective he is, we'll wait and see. I know this too. The organizational structure that he's putting together over there is much different than what Jimbo had rolling. So we'll see kind of how that manifests itself in results. But they have got a portal guy, they've got a high school guy, they've got a general manager, they've got directors of player personnel that, from what I understand, are divvying up. This is the offensive guy, this is the defensive guy, and then it's very structured, extremely structured. So we'll see how all that, like I said, we'll see what it puts out and what the overall look of it. And really, the 2024 class, it's going to be hard to nail down anything in terms of what he is as a recruiter and what his recruiting staff, the efficiency with which they operate, because it is drinking through a fire hose every minute of every day right now. And you had these kids that were committed that had no head coach for a while. And then you still got kids that are committed that have no position coach or coordinator up to this point. So just getting the ball to the finish line, no matter what momentum you've got, I think is important. And we'll talk about some of the names that they've got committed and even some in this final visit weekend. But it's just a mad scramble. That's the best way to describe it. It is not the way I think that Coach Elko will want to operate in the future, and I can't imagine that he will. He's going to want a lot more structure and kind of a clearer path to how this thing's going, because right now it's a winding road and it's full of roadblocks and potholes.
I know there was this vision of Lagway saying, you know what, I'm going to come to Texas A&M. But just 20 minutes ago, he tweeted out 1 week until I'm a Gator with a Gator jersey on. And I guess he's got the penmanship, the signing, and the Gator sign.
Yeah, again, I cautioned everybody when I put this update out, and I knew how it would be received because of the type of talent and the type of kid that DJ Lagway is and kind of the clout that has built up around him, and deservedly so. I mean, he might be the state offensive player of the year this year, and perhaps even the MVP of the entire state of Texas. Just a sensational senior year for Coach Trent Miller at Willis. And I had to put it out. There was another service had run some quotes from a family member of DJ's and saying that A&M was going to be at the school and in home. And so at that point, I knew it was happening behind the scenes. At that point, I made the decision to go ahead and run our update. And I cautioned everybody that it was like Florida had kind of gotten not a heads up, but Florida kind of had to feel like, okay, if this happens with A&M, this could be a real problem for us. And so ahead of time, they were scrambling to do everything they could to prevent and thwart any kind of A&M momentum with DJ Lagway. And that's why I said, he's an option for A&M. He's going to meet with A&M. He met with Mike Elko. He met with Colin Klein. By all accounts, those visits went extremely well. But he'd been committed to Florida for such a long time. They had a plan in place for him, both on the field and off the field, that I think was going to be tough to beat. And they set him up to the relationships, and DJ's a relationships guy, and I think that was going to be tough to overcome too. Now, I think you have to look at it and go, what kind of situation is he walking into in Gainesville? Because, he may have a really nice bedroom in a house that's on fire. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because
the stuff surrounding Billy Napier right now is not good. And the pitchforks are out for that guy. And so you have to go, from a football perspective, what happens if he goes to Florida and things go the wrong way for their team? Well, is Billy Napier fired? Is the athletic director fired? These are all things that I'm not speculating on. These are all things that are being talked about amongst the top Florida media members. It's not behind the scenes stuff. This is
out there.
National media talking about Billy Napier being on the hot seat. So is that a thing where they may go, man, are we going to want to reset in a year with a new coaching staff and we don't know what they're bringing in? So there's a lot to think about here. As of this morning, I put on the site, I didn't have a QB update. My last update, I tended to think that if he visited anywhere, talking about Lagway, if he visited anywhere this week, it would be Florida. Then he posted that graphic this morning that would seem to indicate that things are going that direction. But again, from what I was told by some people on the inside there, Colin Klein was over the top impressive in terms of his football knowledge, his ability to explain his offense. I was told he knew the exact percentages of what he ran when. He knew the effectiveness of his certain, 21 personnel, 22 personnel, 5 wide personnel. He was able to explain all that. The football conversations with DJ were extremely, extremely well received. But again, it's just you're asking Mike Elko to do something that's, push a giant snowball up a hill with the sun beating down on it,
right.
in the middle of the summer. So it's tough. It's a tough job to do that in general, to get a 5-star quarterback 2 weeks in on the job, but then to get one that's been committed to an SEC program for so long. I mean, it was a real uphill battle from the get-go. And, I haven't been given 1,000% confirmation that he's visiting Florida this weekend. But it was always kind of cautionary with A&M, and that's why my updates read the way they did.
Visitors this past weekend, who came by?
Well, you got 2 commitments off the visitor list, right? And there were 2 important commitments at some positions where you're going to, A, need impact players immediately, and B, need depth. When you look at corner and what A&M might trot out there in the bowl game, it's just the guys that haven't played a lot. And with Tyreek Chappelle in the portal and, Tony Grimes just never played here. And so, the room is pretty thin. And so you had to go get a guy that can make an impact on games next season, or that you anticipate making an impact on games next season. And you went out and grabbed a guy in Will Lee, who was the highest-rated defender on the Kansas State defense this past season. And so I thought that was an important get because that's like an immediate impact guy. Javon Harvey, you got to look at the A&M receiver room right now and go, they got 5 scholarship receivers right now. So they need to add some depth. And this is a kid that played in a really poor offense at Old Dominion, 1,000 yards over 3 seasons, I believe, or 4 seasons, I believe. And so he, and we've seen it with Jade Walker, guys coming in from lower levels and making an immediate impact, where maybe at the school they were at previous, they weren't given the resources that they've got at A&M to best fit their development and get the best out of them and reach their potential. So I think Javon Harvey's a guy that whenever the coaching staff sat down and started combing through portal tape, they went, man, he's been pretty productive, but he was on an offense that really struggled to get him the ball. Is there another level in here of production? By just watch the tape. Like, don't watch the offense around him. Look at his measurables. Watch how productive he is when the ball is thrown to him. His ability to adjust in flight, to separate from defenses even when the ball goes somewhere else. Like, really do our homework here and look at this guy, and does he have the skill set to impact our team next year? And obviously they thought so, and they took a commitment from him. So the 2 first commitments of the Mike Elko era, I guess, welcome to college football in 2023, are from portal guys.
Well, I was going to say, I think they're examples of what I like about the portal. Will Lee's a journeyman, man. He's gone to
junior college.
Yeah, he's worked his way up. Jade Walker last year, right? Like, he's an example of, like, this is what the portal, to me, the beauty of it. Then there's the NIL component that kind of changes it. And I know you wanted to talk about this current state of NIL.
The current state of NIL and the current recruiting calendar, something has got to change, probably on both fronts. Here's my opinion, and this may be a hot take here. I think the way NIL is currently structured is a house of cards, and it's coming down. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I think it's all toppling down soon in grand, glorious fashion. The current state of it is untenable. It cannot last. The way the market is set. So when you look at the NFL, you got 32 teams, right? And if you'll remember, when Deshaun Watson got that giant contract from Cleveland, it made some people upset. Why?
Because it raised
it changed the market for quarterbacks. So, and in the NFL, you've got a collective bargaining agreement, you've got an owners union, you've got a players union, and so essentially what you have with the owners are 32 guys that, for all intents and purposes, are kind of working under the same financial restrictions and the same financial plan. And so there's a little bit of fair play stuff involved, that kind of deal. In college football right now, you've got 65 Power 5 teams who have no intention of working together to find any kind of common ground on this stuff. You've got different laws in every state. So let's just say, for example, Christian Nuño is a class of 2024 offensive lineman. And there's one school that's really recruiting him hard, and they want to pay him $750,000 in his first year. Okay? Now, Buck Buchanan, Olin's dog, is a class of 2025 offensive lineman from the same area as Christian Nuño. Okay? He's an offensive tackle as well. So whenever he goes out,
he's expecting.
That's what that guy made. I know that's what he made because he has an agent that talked to my agent, or he's got a dad that talked to my dad, or a coach, trainer. These circles are pretty small with this stuff, and they're getting smaller with this NIL stuff. So the market value for every offensive tackle who is rated near that Christian Nuño, everybody thinks that's what I should get.
That's the market now.
And so do that across every position, when it could only be one school that has the money to pay for that one position. And also, here's another news flash for some of these people that are going into these NIL negotiations. That school may have enough money to pay you, but what are they going to put around you? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a lot. Again, when this was unveiled and thrown upon the masses of college football and into the recruiting landscape and just blew it all up, the traditional recruiting landscape, and blew it all to pieces, we knew that there was going to be layers to, and we were going to start uncovering aspects of it that we never saw coming. And we are. I knew it was going to be Pandora's box once they did this. You just didn't know which directions it was going to go. We're here. And we saw it last year coincidentally with the University of Florida and Jaden Rashada.
Yep.
Promised them money they didn't have. How often is that going to happen now? And when do we start seeing high school players going into college that hold out because they were promised X amount of dollars, whether they really were or not, and they're not happy with their current compensation plan?
What does it do, too? Because everybody has X amount of dollars that are playing this game. But then that means facilities and other areas that people will expect money, that those will start dropping.
Right. So what I think is that every fan base has a massive number of people. Not many fan bases have a massive number of people that are willing to give to NIL.
Right.
And especially every dollar impacts it, right? So, and I would say like with NIL, there's no donation too small or no give too small toward NIL. But what the main difference makers are the guys at the very top, the folks at the very top writing the big checks, right? So who's got the most of those? And then when do they get tired of writing the checks? Because here's another theory of mine is that as this thing goes on and more guys are jumping in the portal for whatever reason, playing time, looking to move up, looking to increase their profile to help their NIL, whatever it is, if the life shelf or the lifespan of a college football player is 18 months on campus on average now, where's the incentive for these people giving money to really be loyal to the program? So in turn, I think loyalty from the players will become more lucrative than leaving. Because if you come out and you say, especially a place like Texas A&M, hey, I'm locked in. Let's ride with this thing. I'm willing to see it through the finish. How will the A&M fan base react to that?
Oh, my gosh, that'd be crazy for them.
Right. And so some of the stuff that I think these kids are looking for, whether it's A&M or Alabama or LSU or Texas, you can endear yourself to these fan bases. And you know as well as I do, that university over there changed my life. I have a lot of things right now because of that university and the connections that I made there. So what do you think that you have to start looking at things long term. You know, staying at Texas A&M and seeing it through, like what does that do for the rest of my life?
But you're thinking of this as an adult. And I think a lot of these.
Oh, sure. I'm not in that position. Yeah.
18 to 22-year-olds with probably people in their corner.
But this is what I'm trying to
about the moment.
Right. And what I'm trying to explain to you is that the moment maybe start to get fleeting because, like, I think now the smarter or the preemptive financial decision is to come out in favor of the school that you're at as early as you can be.
Right.
Because you're building loyalty amongst the fan base. And, hey, okay, Christian Nuño's all in on being an Aggie. Let's rock with that guy. So what opportunities does that give you?
That would be an interesting tier to your NIL. You show loyalty, a bump up of
a tiered approach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every year that you're here, it gets increased.
Better.
Yeah.
It gets better. Let's hit a break. I want to come back, talk a little bit about the bowl game and some of the conflicts that come with that, and also some names to throw out at you. That and more. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio, Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System. Ryan Brauninger is still in studio. So there's a ball game coming up, and practices have begun. I read, and let's just say there's some
It's
issues.
another thing that we've got to figure out is the timeline on all this stuff. I mean, the bowl game might be one of the bigger problems that they're dealing with right now. Because, I'm sure Mike Elko would like to be doing current player evaluations while trying to hire coaches and trying to recruit and all that kind of stuff. It's just, and then with the portal being open, what happened?
Oh, God.
Are you going to keel over on air?
I feel like there's another cough coming, too.
Do you need me to just do the rest of the show?
Here it comes. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
2, 1.
Yeah. All right.
Why'd you cut to me? That was the more entertaining thing, Nick.
He's got a different angle.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. The water went down the wrong hole. Nick Savage in the background.
Nick barking again. So the recruiting calendar in the portal, I think they need to alter the portal window, either move it back later.
Yep.
I think they need to do away with the early signing day. It was a good idea until you allowed the free transfer stuff, and now it's become a really bad idea, not only for a school like A&M that's going through a coaching change, but just about any school is dealing with a bowl game during this time. I wish they would just go back to one in February, or go back to the old DocuSign theory where a guy can sign anytime he wants to, and that would mitigate over-offering in scholarships, and those DocuSigns would be contractual and have probably an out or clause in them that would allow the kids to get out if their head coach was relieved of his duties, or maybe a position coach, whatever. But that would allow kids to kind of sign throughout the recruiting calendar. But if they're not going to do that, then I think they need to go back to one signing day, because I think if you put it in the summer, it's just going to cause more problems throughout the season, because now you're asking kids to make decisions at a set date about their future without being able to see the entire year of football that's about to play out in front of them going into their senior year there. So I would imagine that the bowl game is one of the things that's man, if this wasn't hanging around, we would be able to do more stuff. So for the new staff.
For the new staff. Yeah. Well, the new staff is also dealing with guys that are wavering. What's the latest with Ty Anthony Smith?
I think Ty Anthony Smith just conflicted. I think that a lot has happened. He's looking at his future at A&M. He's obviously got great ties to certain members of the recruiting staff. He was very close with DJ Durkin. And, it's becoming increasingly unlikely that DJ Durkin is going to be here beyond the bowl game. And so I think that doubt kind of may have allowed some stuff to creep in about, I don't really know what I'm going to be walking into at A&M. And so I think behind the scenes, Texas has done a good job of working that relationship and kind of just moving up the pecking order and closing the distance between themselves and A&M. And, I do think that late Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday that Texas had some real momentum on that front. As it started to kind of get out that he was planning a visit, I think it made him go, whoa, do I want all this attention? So I think right now he's just kind of taking a step back and reshuffling things. Not reshuffling, I guess just
reevaluating.
Reevaluating is a good word. Just reevaluating the whole thing. And I think he's generally conflicted. And whereas on Sunday night, I probably would say, hey, this, and I did. I reported that this thing was kind of going Texas's way, especially through Monday. I do think that he's taking a step back and is going to look at this whole thing again and reevaluate.
There's still a chance, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think there's still a chance. I would put it almost basically at a coin flip. And I think on signing day, regardless if he shows up in Austin this weekend, I know he's told some people he's not going now, but who knows? He may decide last minute that he wants to go. But regardless of whether he shows up in Austin this weekend or not, I do anticipate him having both a letter of intent from both schools with him on Wednesday morning when he goes to sign.
What about Jernigan?
Yeah, that's one that Tristan Jernigan's supposed to come in this weekend on an official visit. And if you want to keep him from signing with Alabama, you need to get him to College Station this weekend because obviously he grew up in Alabama, then moved to Mississippi. Before Alabama offered, he had called Alabama to some people his dream school. And then with the coaching change at A&M, it made things that much more difficult for A&M to hold on to him. And in a late run by Alabama and Nick Saban, and he posted some video of him playing the piano at Saban's house while he was on the visit. So Alabama's got that thing kind of rolling in their direction. I think A&M's got to get him on campus. And I think if they do and get him around all the guys that he's gotten to know in terms of the commitments, they got a chance to get that one back going in their favor. But kind of imperative that they do get him in College Station.
Is there a chance that Draylon Miller changes his mind?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because that was kind of out of the blue and surprising. Yeah. And maybe it's a little bit like Anthony Smith with Texas, where it's like, man, that just kind of came out of nowhere. That certainly caught me by surprise, because the last conversations that I'd had with folks about Draylon sounded like Colorado had a lot of work to do, a lot before he returned to Boulder a couple of weeks ago. And I know that they were listening pretty intently to A&M, and for whatever reason on Thursday they decided to call it quits and announce for Colorado. So I would put that as increasingly unlikely for A&M to get back in. Just the sheer nature of it. Like, how many times do you see a kid commit a week before signing day then sign somewhere else? It just, it doesn't really happen that often.
So after a couple of really good recruiting classes, coaching change, possibly losing some dudes, what is next Wednesday going to feel like?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Again, like, recruiting is inherently fluid. When you have a coaching change and you have an old staff still on campus and you're trying to transition to a new staff and you're trying to manage the transfer portal, it only adds to that fluidity. And there are guys that I'm very certain that A&M is going to sign on Wednesday. I think there's probably 12 of them. There are guys that I don't know about. I don't know about Terry Bussey. I don't know if he's going to wait until February or not. I don't know about Don McKinley. I do think he is going to wait till February. Jason had a great report out on him earlier this week. I don't know about Tristan Jernigan. I don't know about Anthony Smith. Tristan Jernigan's not going to sign until Friday. He's announced that Friday evening. So he's going even to the last part of that signing day window. But there are guys that I know A&M's going to sign. Ashton Funk, Papa Fua, Miles O'Neal. They've got a great group of commits coming in this weekend on official visits, right before signing day to try to build some momentum. They've also got some really interesting transfers visiting and some really interesting high school players visiting that I think they're trending in the right direction with. So maybe some names that you have not even heard of before show up on campus and sign with A&M on Wednesday. One of those is a running back out of Tampa, Florida, Anthony Carey.
What about the Oregon State trio? They're supposed to be coming in tomorrow?
Well, one of them is.
One, okay.
I have the latest on the site on our running recruiting thread this morning on the trio from Oregon State.
Cool. Good. And I guess we'll close it with this. Some other names potentially could be hitting the portal that A&M is going to try to be active if they do.
Yeah, I know that just from my conversations, and I actually got a text about a transfer this morning, but until these things actually happen, there's no sense in reporting on them. So I think a couple of them, if they go in, everybody's going to know, okay, that's a kid that A&M would have a real chance at, coming back to the Houston area or whatever it is. But until it happens, there's nothing to talk about. So when it does happen, we'll report on it. But I think some of these kids, they may be thinking the same thing. Like, I'm at a place where I'm kind of the man here, or I'm doing pretty well here. I like the infrastructure. Like, what is the real reason I would be wanting to leave?
Signing day show a week from today. We'll do 3 hours. Brandon Leone's going to come by for one of the hours. Chris Taylor's going to come by for one of the hours. Stephen McGee.
I doing a live from 7 to 8? I thought maybe I would be sitting in here.
Maybe.
Going live just on the site.
Cool.
From 7 to 8, just providing updates where I can.
Yeah, that sounds. I know that Billy had talked about somebody doing stuff at that 7 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that may be just me in here talking to myself.
Okay.
I could answer phone calls. How about that? During this, that would be like must-see TV, right?
Technically, I don't know how we would do that.
No, I just pick up the phone. And they can only hear me.
Like Adam Schefter style, like in the middle.
Oh, is that what he does?
Yeah. Hold on. And
Insider. Yeah.
Oh, we'll come back to Schefter in a minute.
Yeah. Well, I won't have a co-host. Maybe Kevin will co-host.
I'll just come in early if you want.
No, it's okay. I don't want to ruin your beauty sleep.
Well, there's that.
Kevin will be my co-host with that face that she just made right there.
Say her last name.
No.
Oh yeah, we fired her. I forgot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm not getting fired.
We're not saying on air that she was fired. She's being reassigned.
Sorry, HR.
To another company.
Okay.
Wrong. Wrong.
Whatever, dude. Thank you very much, Bonnie.
All right.
When we come back, a little hop, a little tap. We'll do that here in a moment. Right now, we're talking Milliken Reserve, farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide-open spaces with a mission to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that by creating a sanctuary for family, for nature, and community. If you're a family person, I know all Aggies are, right? Like, you want to go hang out with your family, like, I don't know, fly a kite. What do people do in the outdoors, Cavs? Like, give some ideas. Hiking.
Horseback riding.
Horseback riding. What else?
Jumping in a lake.
Jumping in a lake. Do people actually jump in a lake?
Bird watching.
Bird watching. You know you can do all that at Milliken Reserve?
Can you?
Are you actually asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually can. You can also get your veggies there. You can hang out with your family there. You can just enjoy life. You can actually move there as well. The neighborhoods are awesome. You've got the creek, homes on a 10-plus acre wooded estate. You got the hollow and a private gated community, and you got the meadows that are responsive to their natural surroundings. Awesome community. Great place to go, hike, bike, canoe, all the stuff that Kennedy was talking about. Check out the website, millikenreserve.com. That website, millikenreserve.com.
Me and Coach were just talking about that actually yesterday. It's different with me, like you said, my freshman year coming off the bench, just being a contributor to last year, people not knowing what I could do, so me just, popping up and just showing them to now, me being a scout, if we have to find a way to stop him. So the defenses are guarding me different. I just had to find a way to continue to try to get my teammates involved because that'll open up the floor, So I'm excited and I'm happy that we've handled it well this far. So I'm excited to see where it takes us.
All right, that was Wade Taylor yesterday on our Texas Aggies United interview, talking about his growth over these last 3 years. It's time to pound the rock. Tap and Hop are in studio. I didn't realize you guys had never met, but here we are, all together, a little crew.
Pounding the rock together.
Pounding the rock.
I was tired of Logan.
Well, who is it? No, we miss Logan here. Let's just start off state of the team, how you see things at this point of the year. Very tough non-conference schedule. Probably lost a couple games that we needed to have. That being said, it's not the end of the world. Houston's coming up. Hop, you start us off.
Well, I think if you look through the course of the schedule, I think they've done enough to at least move the ball into conference play. Ohio State's was a quality win. Iowa State's a quality win. Yeah, you would like to have gotten that Florida Atlantic and Virginia or Memphis. It would have been nice. And, of course, all that goes away if you go to Houston and beat the Cougars because that all of a sudden puts you back in. But I think I saw the latest projection. I saw A&M as a 7 seed. You'd like to see that as a 4 or 5. And they'll have time to do that. But certainly Saturday's game, if they were to win that game, would completely change the landscape of this non-conference. It was funny. One of the questions at the first game when I was doing the SEC Network Plus, I asked Buzz, I said, when's the last time you had this tough of a schedule? And he goes, when I was coaching New Orleans and I had 7 guaranteed games, And so, but to me, he listened to what the committee said last year, and so he fixed it. So I think you get maybe some bonus points for at least, acknowledging what you were told and trying to do that. And you're right. I still am the person that goes, I don't think they should count anything that as heavily before Christmas as they do after Christmas, because I still was growing up in the days where they said the best teams that were the best at that time, not over the whole season. And, again, that's what disappointed me last year. But I think the Aggies, because Buzz has a history of just improving throughout the season, that the Aggies will be much higher than that 7 seed.
Tab, we just played that soundbite there from Wade Taylor. How do they get Wade to be more comfortable? Because now he was becoming the guy last year. This year he is the guy.
Well, he's got the target, and so I think he's had the target for a while. But, now teams, you saw what, Memphis did. They basically face guarded him, and just made him have to work. Now, what I did like was visually, he didn't seem like he was getting frustrated. He kept that same face and things like that. And I'm not sure, remember who was doing the game on TV, but they said it. A lot of times he was doing so well. When he crossed half court, they'd bring the double team. A&M would bring that person up to the top of the key. He'd make the pass, and now all of a sudden we're 3-on-2 going to the basket. Sometimes I was kind of shocked we didn't do that a little bit more. I think we tried to get him off the ball to see if we could run off some screens to get some scoring. But I just think even though as good as he is, he still needs to let the game come to him instead of try to force a game. And I thought some of those shots were forced just to try to get things going. Yeah, I think that's been the issue for the games that we've struggled in, is that the defense has decided, hey, we're going to force Wade to either pass the ball or, in his case, shoot some shots that are maybe a little far outside, and he has kind of forced the action. But we'll see. You made a point. I thought the offense ran the best against Memphis in the second half when Boots Radford was the primary ball handler. He was doing some things in the paint, and then he was kicking out for some easier threes. And I think they made that run that went from 12 down to about 5 or 6. Mainly with him as the primary ball handler. I'd like to see that a little bit more mix, and let Wade create in other areas and get loose and get free. That was Boots' first game back. He didn't look like he had a lot of energy starting that game to me, and sometimes Boots does that, but it seemed like as the game went on, he was getting a little bit more in it. And I'm sure the coaches were concerned, well, he hadn't played 3-4 games. Let's not throw him out. See, I think long term, him not having played those games will help him, because I thought at the end of the season last year, he was exhausted. Yeah. So maybe that, what do they call it in the NBA, load management, might have been forced on him a little bit.
So I'm looking at Boots's, and obviously he missed those 3 games, but I'm looking at his numbers, and I thought he hadn't had a boots-like game, but he's had a couple boots-like games early on. I mean, the Ohio State game, he had 21. The SMU game, he had 21. I'm still waiting, and again, he missed some time for him to have like a game where that's the boots that I remember.
Yeah, and it'll come. I mean, when you've got a guy that's 24, 25 years old, with 6 years of experience, he's going to be there when it counts. So I'm not worried about boots. In fact, I'm not worried about this team overall going forward. I don't think we can expect a 15-3 like last year in SEC play. I mean, who can? But this team will be fine if they go 12-6, 13-5 with what they've done in non-conference. That should be fine. I think the key is they need to get to that 4-5 line. You know, as we saw at that 7 line, you've got a tough game against the 10 seed, as we know from last year. And then if you win that game, all of a sudden then you're the number 2. You play the number 2 seed.
Right.
You get to the 5, at least you're a pretty significant favorite that first game, and then it's about a 50-50 game to get to the Sweet 16. So to me, that's what I'm looking at. They need to. The U of H game would be a cherry on top. But I think though they've done enough to where they can shoot for that 5 line.
You know, I think Buzz, typically before this season, he's usually played 11, 12 guys per game. And I think, he certainly had to shrink that with this schedule that we played. And I think Boots I'm not going to say he picks a spot, but he just goes along. And also, like you said, wow, we had 21. Why we had 21? But you're waiting for that almost double-double, triple-double look that he's capable of when he knows. And I think if you go back to last year, I think Boots had a slow start too. And I think once again, he just gets more involved once the season goes along.
What about the SEC overall, guys? I mean, I don't know how much attention you're paying to it, but is it as daunting as it's been in the years past?
Well, I know that there have been some disappointing losses in SEC. Several upsets. I think Arkansas has underperformed. Missouri has underperformed. Both of them are in the triple digits in the net right now. Yep. They need to get those up there. Tennessee, you'd look and say, it's 3 losses. They're disappointing, but their 3 losses are all top 10 teams.
Yeah, they're all great teams they played.
So, but I think watch for Alabama. They played a huge game on Saturday. They lost it. They've got 2 more. They've got Creighton, a top 10 team. Then I think they play Arizona next Saturday. So there's still some time for those teams to come up. It's a solid league. But I don't think right now you see that elite team or two that's talked about in the national championship conversation.
Like Alabama was last year.
Like Alabama was last year.
It's odd. And I don't really look at conference till we get into more, but to look up and see with a 16 by Kentucky just still doesn't seem right, does it? Right. I mean, shouldn't that be a single digit? Usually 5 or, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But, they're going to be good. But it's always, to me, it's been just a very athletic league, and that what concerns me sometimes. I feel like when Buzz and A&M are able to turn it into more of a basketball game, I think that's our advantage. When it's just a straight up athletic contest like it was against Memphis, I think that's where we struggle a little bit more than when it's a true basketball game.
One thing that was driving me crazy, and it's been a couple times this year, but definitely the Memphis game, fouling so far away from the bucket. Your head told me everything. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially when you're playing a really good free throw shooting team, and you don't make much of it, but when at the 18-minute mark of the first half, a foul on the rebound after the opponent has secured the ball and you take a swipe at it and beep. And it's no big deal at the 18-minute mark. It's a big deal at the 9-minute mark when Memphis is in the bonus and they're shooting 90% from the free throw line.
Right. And that's what I talk about an athletic contest. I think if we're playing, the other part, I think we feel like we have to try to match their athleticism. And sometimes there's a difference between athleticism and basketball. And I know it's strange saying that, but in my day as a coach, and I always try to turn things more into a basketball game and make it each one possession at a time. But I think if you feel like you've got to make a play here, you start making some of those silly fouls.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with another segment here on Pounding the Rock. I want to talk about Heritage Films for a moment now. That's Chance McClain's company. He sent me a text yesterday. A couple of Aggies signed up for his Yearflix. Wow, Chance and the Yearflix team absolutely blew the doors off of the production of our Aggie freshman. We reached out to Chance and connected with him, and our son just got off got out the way from everything was so over the top. They welcomed our son and made him feel obviously comfortable. The end result is a production to just honor his freshman year at Texas A&M, and there's a lot more that goes into it. But that's what he does with the Year Flicks. It's like a benchmark video that you can just kind of catch up with your kid, right? Freshman year, what's it like? What have you learned? What's your major going to be? Sophomore year, different story. You can do another 20-minute Q&A video. And again, we're talking Hollywood-esque type of production. That's what Chance does with the Year Flicks. But there's also the Heritage Film, which is the 2-hour documentary, which you've heard me talk about for a couple years on this show. That is the way to go when you want to honor your family name, your grandfather, your family business, or your family ranch. Call Chance up right now. Let's talk about your life. Let's talk about your kid's life. Let's talk about your grandpa's life. 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or check out the website, yourheritagefilm.com. That website, yourheritagefilm.com.
It's very important, man. I miss Boots those 3 games, but he's feeling well right now. For him to be out so long and to come back and produce how he did is great to see. So I'm excited to see how this week goes and us heading into Houston. So it's good to have him back. And it's a alpha dog that we needed.
Wade Taylor there on Boots Radford. I'm going to read this, by the way. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here with Pounding the Rock. Ag Engineering 12. U of H is an interesting team because they've curb stomped most of the teams they've played, but they really haven't played any teams. And as I look at their schedule, guys, I'll just kind of read it through. They've played Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Stetson, They played Towson. They played Utah. They played Dayton. They played Montana. Xavier, they beat 66-60. They beat Rice 75-39. Jackson State. They're, as I told you at the break, they're a reputation team. You know that they're going to play a similar brand of basketball as A&M. But if I'm going to be optimistic, A&M is more battle-tested this season.
This season, yeah.
Overall, no.
Overall, and they've got some great players.
Mm-hmm.
They got some great transfers from last year. But the way I see it is, this is going to be a really tough matchup for A&M because the things that A&M does well, which is offensive rebounding, creating more shots than your opponent, that's what U of H does. And in fact, if you look at the Haslametrics, which is the statistical guru, A&M and U of H are almost at the top of the nation in those type of categories. So it's going to be, to me, it's going to be a fascinating game because, as you said, they aren't as battle tested. So do those numbers play out now that they face a team like A&M? And that's going to me, it's going to be a fascinating game.
And I go back to then, if that's the case, we got to get into an offense where we're getting inside some and not getting away from the basket and relying on, Wade Taylor trying to take 30-foot jump, shots and just, so run their offense. But I thought Solomon Washington brought a whole lot of energy to that game in that first half the other day. Did a good job defensively and then offensively, didn't do anything silly. And just, so to me, I just think as a former coach, one of the things I always worry about this time is your head there. Is your head already starting to think about, I get to go home in a couple of days, and see the family and get the good food, and then before I come back. So I'm always concerned during final exams, and then especially getting to that holiday break. Are you really focused on this and not other things?
I will say to that, I actually think that's probably an advantage for A&M because they've been looking to this U of H game for a long time. They know that this is a hugely important game for them in non-conference going to SEC play. U of H, who knows? They've been kind of, like you said, they've been skating through Towson and Louisiana Monroe. Are they looking for the early holiday?
And the other side is maybe A&M getting on the road. Now they're at the hotel. They're not sitting at their own apartments, and I know Buzz gets them there and everything else, but it's more like a true road game, where they're going to get there the night before. They're going to treat it all business, and it's not like, hey, we need you to get up to read at whatever time, and, it's just like you're almost going to practice.
We got a couple minutes left. How do you guys assess the way Hayden Hefner's played this year, how he stepped up into being a very consistent player for them?
I would say that he certainly stepped up his game. He's had some good three-point attempts. They've actually worked him into the rhythm of the offense, and it reflects. I think he's the highest three-point shooter of those that have significant minutes. But he's also kind of taken it to the hole at times.
Yeah, he has
had some fadeaway jumpers in the paint. I think for him, his defense is the key, and I think that's the one area where he needs to make sure. And he needs to take care of business in the defensive end. If he does, he's going to see a lot more time on the court.
He seems to be the one that's always having to go out and contest back to the three-point line, coming from helping and getting back out there. But you're right. I've always said that I think his athletic ability surprises people. He can jump out the gym, and then he gets inside. And sometimes I like it when he pulls up, comes to a jump stop, which has become a lost art in the game of basketball, and shoots that little 3-4 foot fadeaway jump shot. I don't think I've seen him miss that. But when he tries to go in with the land of the Giants, I think that's where he gets himself into some trouble.
10 seconds each. A win, huge for them. A loss, not too bad. Yes or no?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, no doubt. I just think for what they've done, they're in good shape for the rest of the season.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
it.
Tomorrow on the program, we're going to have Logan Lee here in studio. So we'll chit-chat a little bit more basketball stuff with Mr. Lee. We'll also have Stephen McGee, Aaron Torres, and the Fan Show guys. And my thanks to Olin Buchanan, Billy Liucci, the whole gang that was on the show today. These folks right here, John Harris, you name it. Who else we had? Tom Schuberth. We had a great show, the Association of Former Students in Brawny. We're going to catch up with you all mañana. Thanks for watching and listening.